next game.
Yeah, you as Akali are never going to be solo killing an Orianna who is rushing Roa. That's just not really in the cards. There needed to be some form of Malphite interference to try and swing that matchup more toward OMG, and like you said, transition that into Starry being the late game threat on the Aphelios. But it never really came to fruition. So playing to your win conditions, understanding that you can't skip these steps, and like I said, Yanni, being a little bit more cerebral with your macro. I think that the decision making for OMG was off in game number 1 and does need to be a bit more cautious going into game number 2. If a fight looks bad, don't try and overforce it.
And for LNG, 10 out of 10, no notes, no notes. They looked great, honestly, in that first game. You know, 1XN has played with Feather for a majority of his career. You wouldn't have even known that he was playing with a brand new support, right? They were so good. They looked perfect together, him and Missing. I'm excited to see more of them on different looks, other than just, you know, we've got late game Scalar and we have, you know, utility bot. Now, I want to see a different look in one of these games. I want to see something maybe a little bit more early game centric and a lot of early aggression to take over some of these early objective fights. And then we can say, okay, maybe the bot lane's just all good. We don't have to worry about them at all, because LNG is still a team that is completely new.
And honestly, if we can see some of that diversity come out from the 2v2 combinations that 1XN and Missing are willing to go, and if they have equal effectiveness this early on into the season, Yanni, that's a really good sign for LNG. I think that some people have been looking at this LNG squad, you know, you got a full rebuild, you got a full, you know, from the ground up roster here for LNG. A lot of them have been thinking about this team as potentially a dark horse here in Nirvana, a team that could really dominate the group and be something that could promote up if they are capable of hitting that ceiling. And a big question about that ceiling is what 1XN and Missing are capable of. And I'm very excited to see what they decide to go for here in game number 2.
LNG choosing the blue side, so OMG going to have first pick. And so far, the picks and bans looking mighty similar for the side of OMG. One deviation, though, is that Sivir is now abandoned. Varus is on the table if OMG wants to first pick it away, because LNG did not ban it.
Varus has been pretty popular amongst both AD carries, though I will say Starry's most famous champion has been that Misfortune. And when your back is against the wall here in this series, maybe you just try to play around combinations with that bullet time. You can already see some form of engage being drafted up here by OMG. Just gonna insta-lock in that Wukong. I believe this is Juhan's most played, so he's right at home with this character. And Croco, I do wonder what he'll do or pick in terms of an answer. There are several against a champion like Wukong, but that Varus being hovered, like you said, Yanni, both of these ADCs like this champion.
They early pick up for LNG, and that's going to be tough for a Wukong to fight through later on. That Chains of Corruption can cause a lot of problems. Wukong not necessarily known for being able to get out of the wide range of that Chains. LNG, we could just,
right.
We're just going to go back to what we saw in the jungle for most of 2025. Xin Zhao and Wukong coming together. You had mentioned the potential team fighting. Here it is. Here's some early fighting. We've got Misfortune, and then the Leona lock-in would not surprise me.
I mean, this is the 2v2 that dominated every time OMG were ahead. It was usually because Starry would go Misfortune and Moham was willing to go things like the Leona to just go absolutely buck wild with the engages. Combine that with the Cyclone here for Juhan. I do think that OMG have a really good start to this comp, but one thing they are starkly lacking, Yanni, is a little bit of magic damage. So I do think LNG are going to be targeting that mid lane pool.
Yep, you could already see Talia going to be taken off the board. And now, if you're OMG, this Renata throws a big wrench into your plans because you want to be so far in. So your top laner and your jungler, they're going to have to, or your mid laner, are going to have to pick champions that can kind of slide in and out potentially. I'm looking for an Ahri for Haichao. What do you think?
I like Ahri for Haichao. I wouldn't hate if we... Yeah, I feel like Ahri is probably the best pickup here, especially with the mid lane pools being progressively more constricted. I do think you might be locked into that. I can't see if you want to play a little bit more onto the pick combo and work with the Leona here, you could go for like the Syndra. I wouldn't hate that idea, especially because it's a good way of getting Croco off your back if he does find an angle onto Starry or any of the other backline members that OMG might have yet to be drafted up here, as LNG are going to go for the Azir. So, you know, we saw a jungle matchup handshake. We might just see a similar thing happen with mid, Yanni.
Is it still LCK Azir if he's in the LPL? These are the questions that we need to have answered.
Is he a Karis or a rookie? That's the
Karis
question. How does he pilot the LCK Azir?
So we're gonna see Victor come through here for Haichao. I mean, I don't really like it in this particular sense here. I understand why they banned the Syndra, but I guess it's just because you need to match the scaling that this Azir can provide. And if you're going to lock in the Sion, I understand that Sion is just a generically good champion, but you're getting more value out of this Renata over on the side of LNG.
I am also not super big on the Rek'Sai top, simply because this is usually a lane sterilizer. This is a champion who just stalemates the lane, right? Doesn't interact with them. He's got a million tunnels in the lane and just looks to be a nuisance until inevitably he is a pick tool with that knockup. But I mean, what are you preventing in the early game from getting ahead on the side of OMG? This is a team fight comp that wants to scale into the late game. I don't think Rek'Sai actually has a ton of uses against this Sion. He can be a little bit annoying because you're going for that E, so that damage can be a bit pesky when dealing with Harry. It can be good for LNG, but you know, I'm looking at the team fights, I'm looking at the 5v5s, and I feel like Rek'Sai is really going to struggle into those, which is not on the same theme as the rest of this comp from LNG, who are built around trying to team fight, trying to 5v5, and trying to counter the bullet time combination that OMG have set themselves up for.
Honestly, Quacks, if Sheer goes tank, I have to disagree with you. I think that if Sheer gets to that point where he's on 2.5 to 3 items, he's going to be very difficult to kill, right? Because Misfortune known for having a lot of burst, but sometimes the sustain damage can be lacking. We're going to have to see what we're going to have out of Starry's runes. But I have seen too many Rek'Sais just be so difficult for AD carries to kill. Now, moving toward jungle talk here, because I know you love your junglers. Juhan. I think that if Juhan has the same strategy that he had last game, where he goes to the bottom lane, it will be successful for OMG. Build that bridge for Haichao. Over on the other side, LNG Croco needs to do the same, be part of the bridge with 1xN to get Bulldog to that late game as we're on to Summoner's Rift.
They were just like play slapping each other like, I was the cool DRX jungler in 2023. No, I was the cool jungler of DRX in 2023, as they both walk back to their respective top side buffs, and we'll be starting on the same side, so they could end toward that bot crab. More than likely, we'll be seeing what we saw in game number 1, where priority will dictate who gets that crab, and the other one will likely move up to level 4, but I'm not going to rule out the possibility of a 3v3, especially because both Xin Zhao and Wukong are looking to scrap in these early levels. And for the case of Juhan, like you said, Yanni, that level 6, once you get that Cyclone, never leave the bot lane. Set up your tent and allow that pressure to put behind 1xN and missing.
Couple of notes. We saw Guardian in the bot lane over for our Renata for missing, to make sure that he doesn't instantly get blown up for Moham. Sorry, should have some sustained damage with press the attack. So a little bit more what I was looking for, especially when he's going to have to deal with a guy like Sheer later.
Yeah, Sheer. Interested on how this Rek'Sai is going to end up panning out. I mean, you did... And I agree with you. I think that this is a champion who will be very tanky, will be good at trying to get into the backline and, you know, another tool to just interrupt these bullet times. But I do think that if he is not able to, you know, find those angles, if he gets picked off by Moham, if he gets knocked up by Wukong, it could be very, very dangerous for him,
this.
as we are seeing Kroko cut and try to interrupt Juhan on his full clear. Wukong is noticeably weaker in the skirmishes compared to Xin Zhao. He really is reliant on that first item and level 6. So I like Kroko abusing this.
Yeah, but the problem is his mid laner's on a recall right now. This thing is nearby. Smite Fight goes over to Juhan. Now he's level 4, but the handshake is well placed. Haichao cannot get close. Flash for flash, but they're going to get on top of missing. 1XN looking to join the fight here as we've got a full 3v3. Starry bringing up the rear as well. First blood going over to 1XN. Double kill for 1XN. He's looking for
no
Starry
shot.
Next. It's Kroko who gets it. And LNG, a 4-for-0. 3 minutes into the game.
And you can see Kroko with the player cam. My man was elated. 3v4, down numbers, mid laner on a recall, Yanni. None of that matters. LNG with a 4-for-0 off of a smite fight on the blue buff. And I can't even fault OMG for this. I think Moham had the right idea. He hits the Zenith Blade, they lock down a target, but the big thing, I think, was the bailout. The moment you see Juhan, who is absorbing all of this pressure, or Kroko rather, absorbing all of this pressure, and he lives through all of it, that's just absolutely absurd. LNG with a huge win for themselves, not even 5 minutes into the game, Yanni.
And it's the problem with Haichao having this Victor, not the strongest champion early on in the game. Juhan quite a bit weaker than Kroko early. That was the difference. That's why you're able to win that fight 3v4. And LNG, again, just starting off on the right foot. So far, I have not seen an instance where OMG has been the better team. And Quacks, I fear that we might not see that.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, what about there?
He's dead. Is he? He's just dead.
Nah.
How is Sheer gonna escape this?
He's
not. That's the
Goodbye.
answer. Juhan is going to pick up his Sheer camp. You can see Sheer's player camp. He's like, man, what happened? Harry, it's just like, what is this guy doing?
Sheer on the play. The player cams from LNG this game have been great. From the absolute face of joy that Kroko had winning that bot side fight, to the utter disappointment facepalm from Sheer. I love these reactions from the LNG players so far. You were saying, hey, we haven't seen a moment where OMG have been the better team. Case number 1. Maybe it'll be the only case. Who knows?
No, that's individual players, Quacks. I'm sorry. That was
That's
an
part
individual
of OMG. That's
player
part of
mistake.
LNG.
That was a misinput from Sheer. Surely.
It's a misinput.
Well,
LNG.
OMG get there first, but LNG is already on this dragon. And the bot lane, they're just way too strong at this point in time to be pushed off of it. So LNG gonna have the rule of the roost for this early game.
Yep. Trade deal. I get a Ruby Crystal and a Longsword. You get a Tunneler and a Longsword. Kroko, that's an absolute scam. My man uses that power, flexes that item advantage to secure that dragon. And honestly, I feel like you can take that a step further. We've got the grubs coming up in, you know, just a little bit. And I don't think that Juhan, even with that kill, even with that Sheen acquisition, is going to be able to challenge Kroko for a lot of these river priorities that they might be going for. So I expect the bullying from the Xin Zhao to just continue at this point.
I'm a little sad that LNG came out to such a huge lead early on, because I think this might not be a factor. But I don't know if you've noticed, but Haichao has elected not to take teleport this game. He has Flash Ghost. We'll hold that thought for a moment as Juhan is going to go all in on Kroko here with the Cyclone as well. Kroko having a big issue with him. Bulldog moving over, looking to save his jungler. Job done. LNG picking up another.
It was a good look there from Juhan. I mean, he almost manages to get the solo kill, but Kroko does live for just a little bit too long, and Bulldog is able to provide reinforcements. The Emperor helping his people, and most importantly, Kroko just gets yet another kill. He'll get very, very close to first item at this point. If he's able to actually acquire that by the time these grubs come up, that is just, I feel, a checkmate that LNG can use to own this topside river and really bully OMG off of any priority they might try to gain from these grubs. or getting
40
into these grubs.
40 seconds till those grubs are up, and the bot lane is showing up top. Harry has canceled his back in an effort to go after Sheer. He's slowed up by the Make It Rain, but he'll be able to tunnel over the wall. So 2.5 we'll call it, because Harry stopped his recall. Members of OMG could not stop Sheer from escaping.
And members of OMG or LNG rather, are resetting. They're going to try and move their bot lane down toward this top side to at least be numerically even with OMG ahead of these grubs. But that does mean that OMG do grab a plate. Starry, at the very least, on this Misfortune is going to get, like he said, some turret candy. And priority, most critically, goes the way of OMG on this top side, though. Juhan is on the bot side of the map. He is actually not looking to go onto these grubs on spawn, probably because he doesn't have that Cyclone, wants to bide his time and make sure he gets all of these conditions ready if they decide to fight.
Kroko runs right into Harry. He's forced to flash away, so he was on the wrong side of the map for a moment. So another nice play by the LNG jungler, as those grubs are sitting up there very lonely right now with both bot lanes upstairs. We'll see Juhan be the first one to move up a little bit here. Bulldog down to about half HP, down a level, as the pressure is on. OMG's mid and jungle looking to start putting the squeeze on LNG in this top side.
Yeah, Juhan is moving. You can see Hai Chao is now alone in mid, at least for a little bit, and that laser is going to start dealing a ton of damage to the backline minions, so getting priority in that lane is going to be really easy for OMG. And even though they don't have prio on the top side, they can still get some hands into this top side river. But just LNG, I mean, you already have the sundered sky. I feel like that's just too much of an obstacle for OMG to handle at this point.
Yeah, and the big obstacle has really been 1xN and missing, because they were able to take control first. Juhan went back in, and he has to flash out. OMG's bot lane can move over to this fight. Hey, Starry is down 30 CS right now. I mean, the disaster from the early game still reverberating through this entire game so far, Quacks.
It absolutely is, and a really random play there from Juhan. I don't even think he got the grab. He didn't even have smite. That was just a full-on Hail Mary, if ever I've seen one. He's forced to burn the flash as well, so even if he does decide to go in for this engage, which he won't be able to do, as now Kroko is on the back side. They're looking to go for a dive here. They've got the ultimate for
Hostile
missing.
Takeover is ready. They're all in the corner. There it is. It hits multiple members. Moham hand shook out of his Zenith blade, and it's a thing of beauty on the dive, and you know they're going in for round 2. Sorry, gonna be the target. Bullet time on the way out. And 1xN will bleed out in the top lane. A shutdown for Starry.
Just the slight increase of range on the turrets there, I think, meant the difference between life and death for 1xN. Unfortunately, he does go down, but it's still a winning trade for LNG. They still get the dive off, and they still funnel more resources into this Varus, more resources into this Xin Zhao, and that is more than enough to, off of the respawn, redeploy onto this bot side and start setting up for the second dragon.
Really difficult stuff coming out. We see in the replay bit of a farce between our mid laners. Things were really not that great for the moment. Things have not been great for the moment for OMG, down almost 4,000 gold. As this dragon is now up on the bottom side with jungle and support backing over on the side of OMG. Looks like there could be an opportunity to pick up this dragon when they'd like.
That tower does not like void creatures. I'm convinced. That thing has Rek'Sai's number. Going back to this replay, I mean, missing, that was an absolutely beautiful handshake. That was an absolute, like you said, it took him out of the Zenith blade. And then I actually want to see 1xN here. So he steps out. He was really far away from the turret. I do legitimately think
range. Yeah, it's that increase of 5 range, baby. That did it. 1xN was probably like, I'm out of there.
Yeah. That is a little unfortunate for 1xN, but still, it does not stop the train of LNG from bulldozing here in game number 2. They are still super far ahead. Those 2 dragons still belong to them, and 1xN still has a 1.3k gold lead over Starry, despite that misfortune getting the kill. Yeah,
I mean, it's been such a huge lead for LNG that they they haven't elected to shift their bot lane into the mid lane yet. I mean, you have, you're starting to get there with your quests. So I guess you're just looking to finish those off, but typically by this time is when you'd see some sort of swap going on and get Bulldog into a side lane with that Nasher's Tooth. But, I mean, you're just stomping so hard. I mean, there's just really no reason to. Bulldog's never under any pressure.
Sheer using his ult for damage onto Harry. We can see the quests are starting to be completed here by LNG. I think the big thing is 1xN.
Uh-oh, 1xN could not sidestep. Will cleanse.
Didn't have to
and
flash.
hang on to his flash.
Yeah, that is a really important summoner spell to keep, especially because, well, it is still very far out, about 3.5 minutes until that next dragon. Flash has an even longer timer at 5 minutes, so that extra, minute 30 of overlap could be something OMG have an opportunity to exploit. They won't get that chance, though, as, yeah, we're just looking at those quests for LNG to be completed. OMG, Haichao actually completes mid lane quest before Bulldog does. So this Victor...
It was that damage in the early game in that fight that he did.
Yeah. True, actually. That does make the difference. Wow, a lot of things are just funneling back to that one play 3 minutes into the game, Jan. That's crazy.
This one might be a little bit less impactful as everybody on LNG, save for top lane, has completed theirs. We're now going to see them try to attack Moham here with a handshake. Juhan waiting in the wings to go in, waiting to see if LNG is going to overcommit for a potential dive. It looks like that could be the case. Moham and Starry stuck on an island with a turret. Now getting crashed with that wave in. Here we go. Engaged
going early.
Croco, missing. Still has an ultimate ready to go here. Moham escaping just barely, but it'll finally go down. Haichao on the backside looking for 1xN, but Haichao's got to get out. 1xN lives. Meanwhile, Croco just going after Juhan, keeping him away. Turret goes down. Starry goes down. LNG cleaning up OMG again.
That arrow from 1xN did so much damage to Starry. It was another early and easy pick there for Bulldog on the Azir. LNG just dominating in this game. 12 kills to 2 as we are going to get a replay. And I was a little bit concerned about the target selection here. I don't think Juhan being in the area was going to dissuade the tower dive in any way, shape, or form. But I was concerned about OMG going early here. But it all falls apart. Haichao is completely alone. Bulldog picks him off. And then Croco is just having a spar with Juhan, manages to secure that one. And we're not actually going to be able to see how much damage that arrow did, but you're just going to have to imagine the fire as LNG are setting this game ablaze.
Croco dancing around that turret range, by the way. That increased turret range. Really, really well played by him. That's going to be Herald picked up and immediately getting used. We don't care that the dragon is up in 1 minute. We're just going to drop it down now and maybe look for a play onto Starry even. Starry not going to get knocked up. That crash is just going to happen, but the turret will still stand tall. So perhaps a little too over-eager for Croco.
Yeah. They still do hold on to map presence at this point, right? They are still in control of Summoner's Rift, Yanni. OMG, at this point in the game, they're fighting to secure Gromps. They're pulling it to the very edge of patience in order to pick it up, and I feel like that just points to this Dragon Soul Point for LNG being a foregone conclusion. 1xN.
Oh, Chains of Corruption. Starry's got to get out of there, but not after losing both Summoners. Dragon in 20 seconds. LNG have full control. Quacks, there should be no mistaking it. LNG should be able to put themselves in soap.
Absolutely, and that's just brutal for Starry because now you get a good angle for a bullet time and you'll maybe fire off 1 or 2 shots before someone on LNG manages to find their way onto you and cancels that ultimate from dealing the maximum amount of damage that it can. And that's really the only way I can picture OMG having enough damage to win a fight at this point. Haichao, I don't think is scaled up enough. Juhan doesn't have enough items. It's all on Starry's bullet time to make the difference, and he doesn't have the summoner spells to keep himself safe in any of these fights at this point.
Teleport coming in from Bulldog. Sheer Over on the side, lurking in the jungle. Kroko is now stuck in the back of the pit. He's the only one there, missing, finding it hard to get in.
Just
as this dragon is getting very low. It's going to be a smite fight between the junglers, and it's secured by Kroko with a hostile takeover hitting multiple members. It's Sheer on the backside as well. That bullet time is not doing enough. That's the problem. Lots of low health bars, but you can't close them out. Kroko will not get the bailout. It's LNG picking up the dragon, losing 2 members, but getting 3 kills.
I mean, hey man, that was the full duration of the bullet time. We said that was going to be the hardest part, and he managed to accomplish it, but the damage just wasn't enough. There isn't enough firepower on OMG to delete all of those health bars, and LNG, despite the decent setup from OMG to start out this dragon, do end up winning out once again. And I do have to point out, I really like Sheer's positioning. He's just waiting for the bullet time to happen, but he goes in too early. He gets hit by the Cyclone. This was kind of the worry I had with the Rek'Sai. If your timing is off, you just die before you can actually get to the back line, and that's exactly what happened. As off-screen, Moham went down again, but Yanni, you know the rule with off-screen deaths. They don't really count.
No, absolutely not. Well, it's going to count on the stat sheet for Moham, sadly, is that KDA has seen better days, but it's very difficult to have a solid KDA when things have fallen apart like this. I can't remember the last time Juhan has secured a blue buff. I think it was the first one he got.
He did win the smite fight.
Yeah,
yes.
He won the smite fight for the first one, but has lost everything else since. Kroko has had a really nice series for himself, picking great spots to get into the OMG jungle. A large reason why this team has an 8,000 gold lead. And Quacks, you know, talking about LNG as a whole, I mean, this is the could be the redemption, the potential roster, right?
Yeah.
With some of these players coming in. I think the expectation is that they are going to have a fairly easy time in Group Nirvana, and this is looking more like a we wish they were in Group Perseverance team, but in Split 2, perhaps they'll get to Ascent.
Yeah, this is probably the team that, for a lot of people, you know, looking forward to watching Nirvana games, are probably expecting to top the group. At least that's been the, I would say, consensus by a lot of the community. And so far, they're playing like it. I feel like this is a really good performance, and individually, I think that all of these LNG players, you know, most of them are fighting for redemption. 1xN is fighting to increase his stocks now on a better team here. They are all really putting their best foot forward here to start out and planting those seeds for something that could bloom and shine brightly for the 2026 year. We got Baron spawning up, and LNG just holding the line on this top side. They're actually just going to straight up start this Baron, Yanni.
That could be a mistake. You know, you still have multiple members here. Another nice handshake. Here's that bullet time. It doesn't matter. Most of the time. Knockup coming through for Juhan. Harry joins the fight. He's got a big shield, but his ultimate isn't going to land on anybody. Bulldog forcing High Chow off on the side, and down goes the jungler. Starry and Moham going to run for the hills, but Sheer will chase him down. And now LNG can do whatever the heck they want, and they say, give me Harry and give him death.
Yeah, I mean, Starry had a decent bullet time. There was a good position for the Misfortune, but unfortunately, Crescent Guard hit you with the biggest nope card I've ever seen as LNG just dominate such a big fight, and it might be the one that damns OMG in this series, Yanni.
Yeah, we're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's now. Quacks, this Baron is going to go down 21.5 minutes into this game, 57 seconds until Mountain Soul, which LNG already looked fairly unkillable, but that will certainly seal it. Let's take a look at this replay.
This is really depressing from Starry. I mean, Crescent Guard, everyone is out of range except for Xin Zhao, and he literally blocks all of it. I mean, that's just very sad. And then on top of that, High Chow had a really good flash. I mean, he avoided the shuffle from Bulldog. This was actually decently mechanically executed by the OMG members, but unfortunately, the wallets are just too fat on the side of LNG, and the chase down is just too strong. They win out on the fight. There's just no chance for a reprieve at this point. Juhan, though, is very behind enemy lines. This is a last-ditch effort if ever I've seen one. But yeah, I mean, you got to go for something like this if you're OMG.
The problem is the Phalites make it really, really hard to actually do that and make this flank play happen, which is their only effort. I mean, you see him over on the enemy red buff, right? Just waiting for something to happen here. Sheer getting chased all the way off here. Juhan is gonna hit that
we found him.
That Scar's bloom. Yeah, they definitely found him. All right, they're gonna actually keep going after him. It looks like that might be the case. Krako's 2 levels up and he says, why not, man? Juhan forced the flash away, but Sheer has marked him. Juhan's Cyclone will not get him out of there. Meanwhile, over on the side, Bulldog, the Shurima shuffle, the root goes down on the Moham. He's gonna die too. Harry with a double knockup coming through, but he will fall all the same. It's just too easy for the LNG squad. They're averaging almost a kill a minute. Quacks, I have a feeling they might get there. Missing. He's gonna be able to clip Starry, and that means everybody else is gonna go after Starry to finish him off too.
Yep, Starry going down, and that will cement OMG's fate. LNG with a dominant 2-0. The road to redemption is long, and it is tough, but it all starts with a single step, and LNG start their road off with a very pleasant leap here in Group Nirvana.
No doubt about it, Quacks. They left no quarter. They have ripped apart OMG, and they're going to do it for one last fight while the Nexus is exposed. Harry goes down. They're just looking for kills. Bulldog finally now getting a little bit more in his ledger. 25 kills in less than 25 minutes. Absolute domination for LNG.
Performance from 1xN, so good. He made on-hit Varus look strong. Yanni, that is just, you don't understand how impressive.
It is a little stronger now.
It is a little stronger now. Admittedly from every ADC player that I've talked to, they have been saying that the crit ADCs are just better this season at the current moment. On-hit is kind of out of flavor, except for Varus. And we see why in that game. 1xN with utter domination, his new support missing, and him just taking the reins, riding into the sunset here after a beautiful series. All of LNG, gotta give them all flowers. This was a clean executed 2-0 from the squad.
And now we've had every team in Nirvana play. So LGD 1-0 along with LNG. That does mean that Ultra Prime is 0-1. So now we get to kind of see how the group is going to shake out, right? We think that LNG are going to be the ones dominating this group. And if that's the case and we expect them to easily sweep out Nirvana, then what does this mean for OMG? Because, you know, they didn't look good today. So can you really extrapolate much, right? When they're going to play against LGD, when they're going to play against Ultra Prime, matches where maybe the teams, in terms of individual player skill, are a little bit more even.
Yeah, I think it's tough to kind of see what OMG's road is going to lead to here because, I mean, you look at this team, a lot of people were actually really excited to see these guys if you watched Demacia Cup, right? LNG kind of came in, and a lot of people were expecting this team to be a dark horse. Just on paper, they were expecting these pretty decent performances individually, at least from the core of Krako, Bulldog, and 1xN. And for that to really be at the forefront of this team's gameplay, which it was today. But OMG, they took that to the max amount of games twice. They took them to game number 3 in the second phase, and then they took them to game number 5 in the third phase. And so people were saying that this was going to be a team that could be riding the coattails of LNG. Maybe after a few more reps could surpass them, could overcome them with a little bit more time in the oven. They're going to need to have a lot more time in the oven if this series is any indication. And honestly, Yanni, I'm really not sure where these guys are going to end up because I was actually really high on them after Demacia Cup. My opinion has changed slightly after seeing the series today. I think there is much to be done in this reconstruction. Those hard hats are going to be put to the test.
Yeah, but you gotta strap it in and everything, because this was not good, right?
And stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The high vis, maybe a clipboard too. You can get it anywhere with those. I think it's so weird because maybe the season change was actually just the difference, right? Like a bunch of small changes. It kind of messes with all these players who've been playing a certain way for so long. The game is, so much faster in terms of startup now that it throws a lot of people off. And, you're going to need to adjust as professional players and have to come out strong. And, maybe it was just LNG not actually being at this stature in the Demacia Cup, or maybe it is just those changes with the new season that have put OMG kind of behind the 8 ball, or maybe LNG just has a really fantastic read on what they should be doing. It's so hard to kind of see from just one game. So definitely going to be tracking that specifically for OMG as we move on in Split 2 through Group Nirvana.
Yeah, particularly for, I think, Starry and Moham. These were guys that obviously they had really good laning phases in Demacia Cup, but I think their mid to late game, the way they executed team fights as a duo, was something that really stood out to me. And I feel like with the game being faster paced, like you said, it means that you're going to have to be quicker on the setup. You're going to be, quicker on the trigger. And I do think that that is kind of an adjustment that OMG are going to have to make if they want to, be competitive with teams like LNG again. I do think that the season changes do play a factor into it, but I also do just need to say that LNG, this is a team that I want to see continue to evolve, right? I think a lot of people with this series, if it's any indication, this is a good start for a squad like this. And how high they can go is a question, I think, on everyone's mind.
Yeah, it just felt like Croco, 1XN, and Missing just running things. I mean, Bulldog was there. You didn't need him to do anything crazy. He was your late game insurance, but I think those three, the conglomerate, the triumvirate, were really, really strong. Now, Quacks, it's time for us to talk player of the series. 1XN had some gaudy numbers. Missing had 2 straight games, but I still think it's Croco, in my opinion, who did the most in both of these games. I think it is far and away, without a doubt. 1XN, sure, you did great yourself. You fought very well, but I think Croco made this game the series, I should say, very easy for LNG.
Yeah, he was making lore-accurate Xin Zhao jealous with how he was staying alive so long in that bot side fight. That single-handedly, I think, just turned the game on its head. Croco with the Xin Zhao, really, we talked about it when it happened, and I will reiterate it once again. The cerebralness to say, you know what, I'm not going to full clear. I'm going to abuse the Wukong while he's weak, before he has level 6, before he has that first item. I'm going to cut my pathing and just mess him up at his blue buff. Beautiful play, honestly. That set up the entire, that set up the motion for the entire game. That one decision created such a domino effect, and I do definitely agree with you. I think that even though 1XN had really good moments in the mid to late game, even though Missing had plenty of really particularly good ultimates with the Renata in game number 2, all of that was only possible because Croco set up that early game perfectly for his team.
Croco was a guy that at the end of the year in LCK last year was, not terrible, right? He actually had some pretty good numbers, was doing a lot of damage for OK Bro, and was really a middle-of-the-pack jungler. I think if you're a middle-of-the-pack jungler in LCK, you're going to be a damn good jungler in the LPL. So, again, really looking for this team to be, come together through Nirvana and then move up in Split 2 and Split 3 and perhaps be a dark horse. Think of like maybe a Team WE or a EDG from last year. One of these dark horses that you'll say, you know what? Maybe they do win a first round playoff match.
Yeah, and I would love to see that, honestly. And I totally agree with you about your point with Croco. I think that this was a guy who was definitely a middle-of-the-pack jungler and is now kind of coming up here into the LPL as one of the older, more experienced players on this lineup, to be honest with you. I think one big question that we didn't really get to touch on, but something we'll have to keep our eyes on as the series goes by, or as the season goes by, is his influence with Missing, right? How are him and Missing kind of linking up? Because the other player with a ton of veterancy under their belt, who has, you know, been places, who has gone places, has been their support. And so I think that these guys I'm looking at to be the shot callers, how they link up with each other and how they're able to influence the rest of the map is a question that I really have, and I think will be a really big determining factor for how high this LNG squad can go. And hey, they linked up beautifully in game number 2 particularly, so off to a good start. I think that is the one sentence I can use for LNG after this 2-0 schlacking against OMG. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Lots of things to keep your eyes on here in the early goings of 2026 here for the LPL, and one thing that you're going to have to keep your eyes on is Group Perseverance, as we have their first match coming up next. EDG versus Team WE. Slayer and Bloxer will be carrying you through that one, so we're going to go ahead, take our break, do our caster change, and those casters will see you on the other side.
Hello, sweet and lovely people at the twitch.tv or youtube.com/LPL English. I got that one done. It's your second crew of casters here as we get set for our second series. And most importantly, they did the debut of the group Perseverance. Okay, I'm going to have to get that one down. We're still a little rusty. I, of course, though, am joined by my good friend Bloxer here. A lot of landmass in the Atlantic Ocean may separate us, but we are bonded for our love of the LPL, and we get to bring you guys the debut of Team WE and Edward Gaming here in Group Perseverance. Bloxer, I'm so happy to be back alongside you. And are you excited for our first series back together in 2026?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 2026 is shaping up to be really exciting. The changes made have just increased the pacing of the game so much and made it feel so much more like the LPL. There was a little bit midway through last split where everybody's always like, oh, LPL games are fast and crazy and kills constantly, but that wasn't fully true for bits of Split 2 and Split 3. The pacing is back, baby. We are fully back here with crazy action.
And it feels like it's a lot of that craziness coming through the AD carry department. I don't get too ahead of myself as the AD carry guy, but are we set for some pretty fun AD carry matchups, especially our AD carry matchup that we have ahead of ourselves. But let's start introducing our teams a bit more formulaically, shall we? Let's start, of course, with Team WE, as we have dubbed, the team... Monkey's team once more. We've seen a couple of different interesting changes to talk about, though, mainly that bot side. Top side looking pretty similar, though. It's Cube on the top lane, Monkey in the jungle, as I already talked about. Karis still playing in the mid lane, but then this is where we start switching things around a bit. About comes in at AD carry, and Yao Yao, the support to pair together the new look Team WE bottom lane.
It exactly is Monkey and friends. That's the perceived look that this team is going for. Monkey coming in for them last year and just exploding onto the map. All of a sudden, we had something very exciting to be focusing on, to be looking at when it came to Monkey. And I think there was quite a lot of surprise overall from fans and from us here on the LPL English that Monkey stuck around with this team, that they brought him back, that some bigger team didn't come and sweep this guy up. Hey, BLG loves scooping up an up-and-coming jungler. How come he wasn't grabbed there? Instead, sticking around, and they're actually keeping a lot of the squad. And you can see it here with this poster. Beautiful look. Monkey is the guy for this team. As far as we're concerned, and we got a good look of this as well during the Demacia Cup, they live and die by Monkey.
Yeah, I mean, that was a trope that we felt like really shined through a lot of last year too, right? If you weren't keeping tabs on the LPL 2025 too much, this WE team made a miracle run, Bloxer, if I'm not mistaken, third in Split 2 playoffs. They got into that lower final, and it was really a lot of the Monkey show. And that is what we expect once more, even if it may be a bit of a harder task. I will say, keep your eye on About as the AD carry Bloxer. I mean, another one of those, I feel like lesser talked imports coming over from that really well-known Gen G Academy system.
Yeah, he has actually had himself a really good look as well during that LCK second division that they've been playing in. He's actually been having some big pop-off performances, and as you mentioned, and as we'll get more into later on, ADC is in a very strong position at the moment. There's a pretty, big consensus that they got themselves the best quests, that they, complain a lot and as such have been given the most from Riot. I'm not weighing in on this one, and I know which side you're going to come in on, but it is undeniable that ADCs are very, very strong, and as much as we can talk about Monkey, we saw it last year, especially during Split 3, you can't just rely on a superstar jungler. Monkey needs some players around him to be able to get stuff done. I think we also do have to talk about Cube. He had a very solid performance overall, and it would be interesting to see if this year he can take that step up from just being about an at-replacement level player to being able to actually start carrying the team a little bit and taking over some games for them.
I like that one point you made here. No, you can't get it done with just a superstar jungler. Guys, Tarzan doesn't get it done alone for anyone's legend, all right? He's got Kyle. So if that's not a big enough sell, I don't know what is. So let's talk about, though, the challengers of our matchup tonight for our second series, that being Edward Gaming, EDG, coming in with one team with the fewest roster changes, but the change that they have made is one in the firepower department. It's still ZDZ in the top lane. It's still Xiao Hao in the jungle. Angel's still there in the mid lane. But oh man, one of the most polarizing AD carries of 2025 in the LPL leaving Ninjas in Pajamas to join up on this EDG roster and pair with one of the most surprising upstart supports of Split 3, Perukia, to round out a very dangerous team that was already getting a lot of hype towards the end of last year, Bloxer.
Absolutely, and this is Leave coming back. He was on EDG before, went off for his year on NIP, which was an interesting year on Ninjas in Pyjamas, right? Pretty good split 1, they top out their group, they go out as first round exits. A pretty good split 3, they top out their group, go out as first round exits, but split 2 was absolutely horrible for them, so very up and down year overall, and comes back to EDG, joining up, as you said, a very exciting squad. EDG looked brilliant during the end of their last split. They had this just amazing sweep of games, the first 4 games that they played during split 3, where they were topping every statistic. I mean, every single statistical category that you wanted to check, you had to exclude out EDG players because they had 30 kills, 0 deaths between the lot of them. It was just crazy the way it was going. They came down to earth a little bit, lost to Ninjas in Pyjamas, the only other team really during that group Nirvana section that looked pretty good, and that's where I think this change has been really interesting. When you were looking at that EDG squad, I don't think Arn was the main guy that I was ever particularly excited about. You were looking at kind of all of the other lanes, and Arn was doing well enough. He was sweeping up the kills, he was fine. Whereas Leave felt like he was the one having to carry a lot of what Ninjas in Pyjamas were doing, so marrying those two together could make for a very exciting team.
I love that callback from you, Bloxer, because you could simply say, in a way, that EDG last year got a look at Leave ruining that they're split and said,
Yep.
we don't really want to deal with that anymore. Let's just bring you on over here. For a second, though, before we get too much more into this matchup, I do want to take a little fun tidbit time, because obviously we were in off-season for a while here at the LPL. So were these players, especially the Edward Gaming players, not making any international tournaments to note so far, or yet in 2025. So what did some of those players get up to? Well, Mr. ZDZ up in the top lane, had himself a bit of a journey in the old driver's license acquisition there, Bloxer.
Yeah. I mean, we've spent the entire year laughing at a lot of the LPL players for not having their driver's licenses with Shelly, but clearly in this situation, having some problem with the actual cars. To be fair, driving licenses here in England are kind of a nightmare, and I have heard that driver's licenses over in China are pretty dang difficult to come across. So a big congratulations for him for passing, and this sequence of events is just so funny.
Yeah, it's a happy ending. I love the funny. This is, again, I think last year we talked a lot about how EDG seemed to be a very good vibes team, and nothing really resonates for me with that than seeing ZDZ and Xiao just debating about the new car acquisition. Yeah, I guess this is fun, right? Because you have the UK driver's license talk. I can then again talk about American driver's license requirements.
Don't they just throw a license at you guys? Isn't there nothing you have to pass?
All right, okay, listen. I will say I am a Los Angeles resident currently, and I literally read today a joke that you just have to breathe. You have to breathe in oxygen in the LA DMV to get your driver's license. I didn't get my driver's license in Los Angeles. I did get my driver's license the first time, though. How am I supposed to compare it, Bloxer? I haven't taken your driver's test. I haven't taken the Chinese driver's test. All I can tell you was I studied up and I balled out on it, and that's all that we all need to know.
First time passing as well here.
There we go.
Driving's great, and I would, however, like to know the differences between these three. Maybe the next graphic we run, right? What is the difference between an LA, UK, and Chinese driver's license?
Yeah, that's the interesting part. Well, I guess we could at least talk about. Did you have a written and then like an actual driving portion? Okay, yeah. So we got that in common at least.
However, the written portion is very much: do you, when you're angry, run someone over or not run someone over? And so, as much as it is a written exam, as long as you're not a psychopath, you should be passing it.
Now that I think about it, the one thing I definitely remember was that in America, they have a kind of scare tactic where they'll show you like really, really harsh accidents or like what happens when like if you make some of these mess ups and like say this could be used. They try to scare you into not driving like an idiot. So I don't know. Does that tactic work? I have not gotten any accidents, so maybe it did. No. All right, we're getting our walkouts here, seeing the respect fist bumps from our two teams. Bloxer, I did this with Melvin Izzle because I posted a video talking about the jersey rankings. I want to get your thoughts on these two, because I actually had these two jerseys. I know they're wearing the sweatshirts over them. Some of them are showing their jerseys. I have these two teams ranked very separately, so I'm curious how you feel about our two teams' jerseys for 2026.
I think they're very polarizing. I think they're very different. EDG sucks. I hate it. I'm sorry. I'm just such not a fan of the color scheme. I know that EDG is one of the originators of this color scheme, so you do kind of get a pass. You can't call it unoriginal when you originated it, but I just find the black and white jerseys to be pretty boring, whereas I think WE's look beautiful, and I think they're very clean as well, with the sizing, with the spacing of the text. I'm a big fan.
Bloxer, I have an unfortunate update for you. I tiered them like D, C, B, A, S, right? Like that way. I had WEs at D.
Okay.
And I had EDGs at the top of A. So
That's
we are
crazy.
we are on the
Very
complete opposite
Very
planes with this one. I will say, for EDG, I kind of liked how they went back to like the black with a little bit of gray. They had the red. Like they could have just went black and white, and they went a little. You know what? I'm sure this will be one of many times we disagree, but alas, it's all for fun. What we need to focus in on now is our matchup. Team WE, EDG, getting set for draft. And of course, that does mean we have the classic new dynamic to these drafts, Bloxer, that I'd love to hear you talk about a bit more. First selection. How are you feeling about that? Potential red side first picks now in the year 2026.
I really, really like it. I think this is a really fun change. We saw last year, especially during Split 1 and Split 2, that it was just the battle for blue side. We had those side selection 1v1s that everybody kind of hated because nobody was really taking it seriously, except it was serious because you did really want blue side. Blue side had an incredibly high win rate compared, and I think this is a great change specifically because of Fearless. With Fearless coming in, it just exploded the priority on that pick 1. Counter pick really fell off in a lot of ways, and so being able to separate these two out is very fun. Now, does having blue or red side in and of itself without that first pick attached to it really change anything? Not particularly as far as we're aware right now, although of course more data will come out as we get more games played with the two separated out, but you can start to plan around slightly different looks towards these objectives. I think it's really fun, and I do just like giving the teams more options for interesting strategy decisions.
My favorite part about it is one of our team members here at LPL English, one of our mods, Zariel, did a great little graphic to teach us a little Mandarin to try and figure out what's going on here. So I'm gonna try and go through it and see if I can figure out. I believe. Hold on. Okay, I probably should have practiced this before I got on air. I'm failing pretty miserably to figure out. You know what's a good way to cheat? Guys, WE's picking first on red side. Bam, there we go. So they picked red side, Bloxer, and they're going to lock in the Varus for About's first game with the team.
Okay. The Varus has been something that we saw a lot of last split and has been popping up relatively often so far. As we've been talking about, right, ADCs have a ton of power pumped into them, although it is those hyperscalers that have been really exciting, as well as more of the Essence Reaver builders as well, although that has been nerfed down recently. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we're just going to be moving fully towards a little bit more of a poke matchup right here, because trying to lane into this Varus can be kind of miserable.
Yeah, certainly can be. And you know what will make it pretty miserable to play Varus? The Ambessa ball delivery system we see here. Swing back here. ZDZ on the Ambessa. It could be Ambessa jungle, actually, so Xiao Hao does have that flexibility. We've seen it come across there, but mostly in the top lane. This would be a very aggressive pick for Karus, but we have seen flashes of him. Yeah, it is his pick, Bloxer, right? And the Akali will come in to try and match that Orianna and give some kill threat, especially on the side lanes, to make Angel be pretty wary about any time he goes to collect farm there.
Absolutely, into the Orianna matchup, it's one of the safest matchups other than into things like the Akali that can go get you. And Karus, a player we were generally pretty uninspired by last year, really only had pop-off performances on a couple of things, and one of them was this Akali, so I think this is going to be a particularly interesting pick for him right here. And what WE have for themselves right now is just a very standard comp that we're expecting to see quite a lot of at the moment. The Akali, whilst being a little bit spicy, doesn't change things up too much, whereas over on the EDG side, I love that they've got themselves the Yunara right here. That's quite aggressive. Whether or not you're going to be able to get very aggressive during the laning phase into a Varus, you'll have to wait and see what the supports are going to be, but later on into the game, the Yunara can pop off so quickly. Once you get that quest done especially, the Yunara gets this massive power spike and can just take over a game.
JDG fans know this champion well already. Gala getting the pentakill on it. The pentakill prince, as he's been dubbed in his first game for JDG. And if you've been tuning in all day today, 1xN put in a pretty darn good shift on this champion as well. So I'm right there with you, Bloxer, Yunara. Always fun to watch, especially with the new ultimate ability haste item, Fiend Hunter Bolts, if I'm not mistaken. It's a ludicrous item. I'm sure we'll talk more about it once we actually see the item come across Bloxer. We'll focus in on the bans, though, right now. Zahen going to be the first one taken away for EDG. What do you want to see a WE target with the rest of the second half draft coming?
I want to see a little bit more for them taken away from the top side, especially if that Mbessa does end up in the top lane. As you said, it could go jungle. Cube has been someone that we've mainly been looking towards these tankier options, but I do wonder if he's going to still look towards something more like the Zahen, as they've obviously already banned, or the Cassante that can kind of straddle the line between getting aggressive and also just being more of that tanky option. I do wonder if he potentially also wants to go towards something as aggressive as possible. We've seen the Mundo popping up back and forth as well. I don't know if you particularly want to weave it into this composition, though.
All right, the Alistair going to be the ban thrown away towards Yao Yao to try and I like that ban a lot. There's a lot of peel that you'd like to try and warrant for a Varus that's going to be pretty standstill versus an Mbessa flying in, that Orianna. I like to see the Lulu ban, though. Really good pairing for Yunara. I still will stay. The LPL loves their engaged supports. They still should be the premier pick, but this new season has opened the door for a bit of Enchanter play, so I like to see that Perukia is pulling that Respect Lulu ban, and we'll now get to see what do EDG want to leave up for that B5 counter pick. Well, they're going to keep that flexibility with the Mbessa, either top or jungle likely in place, and give Perukia a champion that he started to make his name in. And I've forgotten everything about casting the LPL Bloxer. It's like rule number 1 about draft, right? You're not supposed to fall for hovers.
Don't fall for the hover, yeah. I do think you're right that was a good situation to have been able to just pick yourself up your support, but the Cassante, as we just talked about, right, it's one of those champions that something Cube would have liked to have played anyway, would have worked well with their composition. You get to take that away. It works very well alongside an Mbessa and a Yunara because you can go flying in together, and you've also just got another ball delivery system, so I get why they've grabbed that, and I actually do think that taking support as your counter pick really does unlock counter pick in a way that taking it in the other lanes at the moment doesn't particularly. For WE, they obviously still need to grab themselves their top laner and are going to lock in the Renekton. The Renekton kind of on a resurgence at the moment, actually. The sort of champion that at the end of last split had really fallen off, but you can get super aggressive in the top lane with it at the moment. Into the Cassante as well is a pretty good matchup overall. And then once you get into these team fights, they just needed some more tankiness, some more front line to go play. I like the Rakan pairing with it. You've got a ton of backline access now, and a lot of space you should be buying for about.
I do like kind of shoring up a different style of crowd control, right? Besides that Jarvan, you put a lot of pressure on these cataclysms from Monkey. Now Yao Yao can alleviate some of those with the playmaking. Ooh, but I would love... I'm not going to fall for it. We'll keep talking about Rakan. Rakan Charm, very valuable here. Words that take up time for the timer. That's why... Oh! Perukia, man, you are messing with me too much. All right, I can say it, Bloxer. This Poppy is an Exodia counter pick at the end of this draft.
Oh yeah, I really, really like the Poppy right now. Obviously, there's a ton of movement abilities that you're going to be able to shut down with that Steadfast Presence, but even beyond that, this composition did really just need that little bit of extra, I'm going to run at you and start this fight off, and you can now pair it up alongside a couple of the other champs with you, but also, it's just that level of tankiness you've got down in the bottom lane. Everything that you were otherwise going to be looking to do as Yao Yao, get involved, try to look for angles to get about an early kill potentially, pretty much immediately gets shut down by the Poppy. You now no longer get to try to play that. You're also going to be dissuading Monkey from really wanting to get into your lane. Overall, I think that this, as you said, it's just that pick that stops so much of what WE want to play dead in their tracks.
And as we talk about more, our featured matchup, it's pretty apt that the marksmen in this game are going to play such a pivotal role. Because for about... It's just all of the range here is with this Varus, right? It's an Akali, a melee mid. You've got just so much short range that Yunara can really take advantage of. But this Varus, if it can really get itself ahead, can kind of poke out this Orianna, poke out this Yunara. Because if you don't, the amount of disruption that this EDG comp has put together, Bloxer, is exactly what a Yunara wants. To get enough space created with a Cassante, with this, Poppy we've talked about. It's going to be hard to get to that Yunara. So I really think, as we wanted to see, our AD carries are really going to be the focal point of how these team fights play out for either team successfully.
Absolutely they are, and I think it's really exciting to see for WE when they've brought in somebody new, and we get to see really how much About and Yao Yao are going to be able to push forwards their lane individually, how much Monkey's going to go head down there. We talk so much about Monkey, he can have massive impact in this game during the laning phases, and then Jarvan in a team fight can obviously completely swing things with the ulti.
Well, we're on to the Rift for the first time in Group Perseverance. Edward Gaming taking on Team WE here. EDG earning their spot, coming up from Nirvana in Split 3. WE dropping down from that prior Group Ascend, and that's exactly why this Group Perseverance is so fun in Split 1 of the LPL. And we're sped up. People like to call it TikTokified League of Legends. The minions are already up in the waves. We're already trading in the bottom lanes. And we see both of our junglers pathing back towards these bot sides, and that's going to be important to track Blockster, knowing how much more Jarvan can do with those early levels compared to an Mbessa.
Absolutely. We talk often about how a Jarvan should be ganking a couple of times pre-5 minutes, as much as you can pre-level 6, and those ganks will be exceptionally effective, especially down in this bottom lane, but I don't think you're just limited to this bottom lane. Top lane could also be potentially explosive, and when you are on the side that doesn't have the Orianna, that's a great lane to potentially be ganking on towards as well. Also worth noting that early clears have been slowed down a little bit, so as much as the game has overall been sped up, these junglers should be taking a little bit longer to get through that initial little bit of clear, give you a bit more time to push that first wave and get a bit of a bounce going potentially. Both teams should know that their opposition numbers are moving down towards the bottom side.
I like what you talked about the solo lanes for Edward Gaming, because it really feels like both of them kind of want to nullify these early levels, right? Just kind of survive, thrive, farm out. Orianna definitely can get the push onto this Akali, but as things progress in this lane, there's always that kill threat that Karis will have, and Cassante is just the nullifying king of top lane, right? So it's good to see Angel has a significant health bonus, as we see an early reset coming across here from Leave, maybe trying to get in a sneaky Cole purchase perhaps, but WE have kind of sniffed this one out and now have complete control over the wave.
Absolutely, like you said, has gone back to grab a Cole, looking to just get that early injection of gold as much as possible. That paired up alongside the quest for the bot laners means that once these two come through, you are going to get a massive injection of gold, could really slingshot Leave ahead. You've just got to be very careful not to fall behind during the early laning phase, especially as First Blood is back, giving you extra gold. Giving away that first kill could be really devastating. Not exactly sure that's going to happen here, but ceding control of the wave can also have a pretty big impact.
Karis doing a good job using that Shroud to get maximum efficiency out of the kit. Gets the Electrocute proc, and Angel now in a little bit more trouble than normally expected early for those Orianna levels. I do like that reset, though, for Leave on top of two things. Or, well, really for two things, right, Blocks? I think Cole is really good for Yunara specifically as an AD carry, but also we talked about how it could be a look towards the bottom lane for that early gank for Monkey, and by taking that reset effectively, there's no chance to even try and take a summoner from Leave, and he doesn't actually end up losing any farm. He's still up, so really heads-up play from the only new addition to Edward Gaming in 2026.
Exactly, like you said, they're really building on what was already a very solid foundation from the end of 2025. And the fact that so far it's looking pretty good. It was a pretty disappointing Demacia Cup for both of these teams. Got knocked out during the second round for both of them. So nobody's really got too much expectation of either of these teams coming into 2026 split proper. And so you've got kind of a blank slate to really be building off of as well. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we already saw in our first series how LNG dismantling OMG. I think that's one of your exciting teams from Group Nirvana that can kind of overshoot their placement. And if you talk to the sweet man, Mark Rafa, he would definitely tell you that EDG is a team in Group Perseverance that could overshoot their status. And, well, I tend to agree with them on paper, but there's still a lot of time to talk more about that. We see our junglers get back out towards their second clears. An early heal there from Perukia, maybe looking for a trade there. He gets the stun on the wall onto About, who oversteps his welcome. Heal traded back by Yao Yao, and Leave's able to get a couple of pretty clutch autos down. One more at that lethal tempo would have maybe found that first blood, but the resolve of About, he doesn't actually end up having to commit that coveted flash.
No, but still, that is going to be the heal coming on out, so that's going to be pretty big going on forwards. And again, you're just ceding some more control over this lane. Monkey having to come down just to help catch this wave, make sure you don't lose out too much onto this turret plating. Of course, turret plates have been much changed at this point, and you can see the crystal's built up pretty big. If he'd have been able to push through right there, Leaf could have grabbed a big injection of gold. Instead, things just going to taper back out, about going to be able to head back to base, come back to lane, and he's not going to be in too terrible of a spot. Now, people hunting for Karis, but...
Oh, Shockwave going to land for Angel. Wow. Like that trade. Ult for Flash. That's going to be something that Perukia and Xiao Hao can revisit. Monkey here, though, has Yao Yao coming up as well. Do we have a classic LPL fight over a Scuttle Crab? Nope. Both of our teams feeling a bit wary in their first stage game.
Yeah, neither team really looking to overcommit right here, as much as the Drake would be a nice buff to pick up. Those are another changed part of this new patch. These are a little bit tankier, take a little bit longer to grab, so you're less likely to just go and fling yourself at it in front of your opponents. Instead, it's just going to be a little bit slower. WE going to wait out EDG, and now just going to be started up right here. The support's going to duke it out just a little bit. Don't see this going anywhere. For WE, it's just important to make sure you have enough space for Monkey to be able to grab this first Drake. And to be fair, grabbing yourself an early Mountain Drake is really nice.
Yeah, well... It's going to cost him. I mean, that is a, what, Krugs and Red Buff is going to be traded back here for Xiao Hao at the very least here. Monkey's actually not going to go down camps-wise, so a good trade like you talked about. Ooh. TP, it's a flank, but it is Perukia utilizing that unsealed spell book. Let's see if he can make things happen. About did retain that flash from last time. He gets pushed back towards Leave, who, in classic AD carry fashion, is much more focused on his wave. It's a cannon wave, Bloxer, come on. Oh, okay, Leave. Wait, he gets Transcendence. He goes level 6, and About has to commit that flash, so maybe Leave was actually thinking a bit smarter than I would have. I would have just hit the wave because I like farming minions. He was doing it to get level 6.
Well, he ends up doing both, right? You get a good chunk of damage off on your opponent. Still, doesn't quite get that full engage. I think Leaf was hoping to be able to get that level 6 just that little bit quicker. Instead, Perukia has had to pull out of that fight before he's able to grab it and then go in. A couple minions quicker towards that level 6 would have likely resulted in at least a couple more things being blown, a bit more of a big engage. Still, About has to blow that flash, so the flash you were talking about, something so pivotal to keeping this Varus safe during the laning phase, now gone. We'll see if that's going to result in any more aggression bot lane from EDG, or if they're now going to bring Xiao Hao down to the lane and see if they can get something going that way.
So we can see both Perukia and Yao Yao roaming up towards these grubs in about 10 seconds. Support roaming is a very intriguing strategy now, Bloxer, with those quests like you talked about. Support's even got to chase towards them, so getting them out of their traditional lane is going to slow down that progress, but you gotta take a lot of priority towards these grubs, especially in a game for Monkey, where he's already grabbed that first dragon, now looking for a gank. Good steadfast presence, gonna cancel out the flag and drag, so Monkey doesn't even get a crack at a Cataclysm on the Angel to force that flash.
This is what we've been talking about. That Steadfast Presence is going to be so annoying for a WE squad, very reliant on their movement abilities to get things going, and every single time you step up, you're going to have to be just waiting on that Steadfast Presence. You're going to have to try to get that out as quickly as possible. About getting forced very far back. He's going to lose out onto a ton of gold here from the turret plating. This was the getting ahead. This was the gold injection that we were talking about.
Oh my gosh. He doesn't have flash. Immediate engage from Perukia. Love the steadfast engage there from the EDG support. You hit that public execution, and it becomes a first blood cost for these grubs. The Monkey is gobbling up on the top side.
I'm out here worrying about whether or not he's going to be able to catch this wave, and instead, no, just immediately gets one-tapped right there. We talked about it not 2 minutes prior. Not having the flash on this Varus in this game is going to be terrifying.
Oh, Leave, gonna get knocked up. Immediate cleanse, though, on the Chains of Corruption. Still, a little bit of that's a classic Leave maneuver right there. Bloxer, no matter what team he's playing for, probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, but cleanse is the cost nonetheless.
Now, as much as we were talking about how, a big part of the reason you go and grab Leave is because of what NIP were able to do, the reason NIP didn't go as far as well is because Leaf was a very high variance player with some just weird mispositioning errors popping up quite often, and in that situation you do only lose out onto the cleanse and the ulti, things that will come back relatively quickly, but you gotta be careful, especially in this composition where the whole composition of EDG is built around trying to get you into a good spot and then letting you carry through the team fights. If you're stepping up a bit too far as Leaf, you're gonna cost your squad dearly.
Speaking on Leave being in a good spot, even though he doesn't participate in that first blood at all, he reaps the gold rewards here because of those plates. He picks up 2 of them. He has a double Pretty sure that's about 2 waves. Yes, lead. Holding on to about 500 gold, the main gold lead that EDG have here. But live by monkey, die by monkey, like we always talk about with this WE team, Bloxer. First Dragon, 3 grubs in tote for him. So it didn't come at a cost for EDG to get leave ahead.
Absolutely, and the grubs could be really interesting, right? Split pushing is something Riot's been trying to push recently. Haven't really seen that come to fruition too much during the first couple of matchups that we've had here on the LPL, but I'm sure we'll get to see some more interesting strategies at some point. And so now having the grubs for WE, we'll see what they're able to do with it. Cube should be set up pretty well to be able to go split push, try to get himself a little bit of a push early on, especially with having taken the teleport. Once he gets that quest completed and has himself the upgraded version with the extra shielding as well, that's going to be really nice for him coming into these team fights later on.
Able to get himself a pretty nice gold lead. Took away those crystallization chunks with the plates. Also going to force ZDZ constantly playing, you know, jockeying these waves under turret, and we're seeing the power of the grubs, right? It's harder for ZZ to clear these waves out. Cube nearly picks up another plate alone off of those. Monkey looking in the mid lane, though, does have Angel trapped in the Cataclysm, but Perukia, the steadfast presence, means that Karis couldn't dash in. It's still a flash from Angel, and a Keeper's Verdict knock up. The double shockwave turn from Angel is nice, but Karis, he wants to find this execute kill. Ooh. He's going to get it and dash himself back out. Monkey picks up the kill, but it's WE on the board nonetheless.
There we go. This is what we're talking about with this being one of Karis' signature picks, the thing he looks the best on, able to pick himself up that one. And now you've got yourself a little bit of jockeying around Dragon coming up too. You are down a member right here as EDG, but it feels like they don't care at the moment. They've got the health bar advantages. They're just stepping up, seeing if they can catch a member of WE out. You really don't want to go down by 2 Drakes right here as EDG, so they want to get themselves involved in this one.
Leave knows that Karis is not sporting Flash or Ultimate, so it's the one time any carry feels somewhat comfortable walking up to the Assassin. And as you called out, Xiao Hao in the right place at the right time will even up these Drakes. So good plays on both sides, but Bloxer, I'm liking to see that every one of these decisions does come with a fallback for either side.
Exactly, neither of these teams seem to have just been flinging themselves at their opponents. That's kind of what ruined the matchup previously today for OMG. They just didn't feel like they were thinking through a lot of their decisions, were just flinging themselves into situations that were not good for them. Leave might be doing that right here, gets exhausted and takes a piercing arrow to the face. That's a good chunk of his health bar gone. He's at least going to be able to survive, but that's now what, the 3rd time that he's used that Transcendence defensively?
Yeah, and it does hold on to the... I actually believe his cleanse is coming up just now. Yeah, looks like he maybe want to look for a dive. It is still going to be Leave getting his bottom lane quest done first. The only quest not finished is going to be about so far. Do believe he'll get it up here soon. Monkey in the area, stealing away some of these grubs. Xiao Hao is nowhere nearby. This is a 2 versus 3. Perukia going to engage onto Monkey. Leave has both his summoners, but no ultimate. Still, though, able to clear out the wave well enough that no dive should really manifest. And there will be more time bought for Leaf to scale on up here. Perukia's going to get caught over the wall, though. Great find for Monkey into the quickness charm and the dunk down Cataclysm. Monkey holding all 2 kills for WE, just like we wanted to see.
And now they're going to go and try to fight around this red buff. Good knock-up landing right here. Xiao Hao's tanky, but still, he needs to get on out of there. Is at least going to be able to limp back out of his jungle. But I mean, Slayer, look at the gap in CS that's opening up, the gap in kills. Monkey is seriously far ahead.
And he's helped prop his other teammates up. Now the only person holding a gold lead for EDG is Leave at this point into the game. But we are dead even in that gold, especially with the plate picked up here for Angel, as it feels like Monkey is everywhere on the map.
Absolutely.
And now,
absolutely is.
As we get into the, the 15 minutes past, we might see some more skirmishes. The question I have for you, Bloxer, is what does Monkey need to do to keep pushing this lead? And in my opinion, more importantly, distribute it more towards his teammates, right? Like we talked about, it can't just all be Monkey to win these games. I might have to hold that thought from you, Bloxer, is Cube is staring down a 1 versus 3 dive. Good early Dominus pop. And if he cuts the wave out, I think this is going to fizzle on out. And it should with Yao Yao in the area as well.
Yeah, this should just walk away. EDG realizing that overcommitting in that situation was definitely going to be a bad decision. They don't really lose anything for that on the rest of the map. There isn't some big push that you're missing out on down in the bottom side. So instead, we can turn to how WE can spread the love, how Monkey can get involved elsewhere. And I think what he has to do is just spend more time getting alongside his teammates, doing stuff alongside Yao Yao, alongside Karis. Get involved into the backline as much as possible, because again, Leave really is the big part of this matchup and is the person that's furthest ahead right now. You've been able to get a couple of cleanses, flashes, pops of the ulti out of him, but they haven't really full committed to trying to kill Leave yet. I think that's the next step.
I like it. We'll see if W can be successful in that category. They do finally give up their first topside neutral objective, so the Rift Herald is going to be available. Reminder in Season 16 that first turret isn't a feat of strength, obviously, anymore, but it is a lot more valuable gold, just straight gold injection, so see if Xiao Hao utilizes that to try and knock down the first turret of the game.
Exactly, it's now 300 gold into your back pocket if you're able to take down that first one. And of course, with turret platings being on every tower, it's also just... Okay, that's pretty aggressive. Does Angel think he's got a 1v1 here? Surely
I don't
not.
know.
No, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, eats the newly returned Hextech Gunblade to the face there. It doesn't have enough burst yet, but maybe just a reminder to Karis that as this Orianna scales up, those shockwaves will hurt more and more.
Absolutely, and still, you've now got Karis kind of pinned underneath the tower right now. Hex Flash potentially over the wall. No, in the end, it's not actually going to happen. Deciding to just turn around and walk away is Perukia, but they spent a long time up here at WE.
Good keeper's verdict, but he's still trapped in the Cataclysm without the J4 regardless, and Karis is going to get his sweet revenge. That is a 6-level difference, by the way, in that one kill for Karis.
And the thing is, you were just spending way too much time up in the top lane right there as EDG, just sticking around and giving plenty for WE to turn around and walk up to the top lane. Now, whilst that is happening, as we were talking about, right, first tower going to be very valuable. You get first tower right here onto the bottom side for EDG, and they're going to be able to grab a huge chunk more turret plating off of the Rift Herald. So the Rift Herald paying dividends right here for EDG, and again, keeping them even in gold despite being down in kills.
This game is as even as it can be in basically every category, unless Karis can get some serious damage on that top lane tier 2. So as we look for more of these big items to come through on both sides, Bloxer, who do you think benefits with more time in this game? Because it feels pretty EDG favored knowing everything we've talked about for Leaf.
I think so. In this situation where Leaf really is just set up as that main carry, the more items, the more gold he has in his back pocket, just the more he's going to be able to rip through his opponents. But it's not like WE completely get outscaled across the board. There are always options to be able to get involved. I think the critical thing for WE is how much Karis is on pace, or at least ahead of pace, to be able to take over the game. If you fall behind on the Akali, there's very little you can do.
Good flash from Leave, but again, I feel as if he wasn't this aggressively postured in mid lane, he doesn't have to commit that valuable summoner you've been talking about all game.
Every single time he steps up and he has to lose something. Now, at some point he's going to have to blow everything, and that's going to leave him very vulnerable for the next couple of minutes. He needs to be careful. Mispositioning errors coming through again would be devastating to an EDG that really just needed a step up from the ADC spot to take them to new heights that they really haven't reached in quite a while here in the LPL. Perukia, speaking of mispositioning, he keeps getting caught out again and again.
So, the first time he got caught by Karis, he was level 6 to level 12. That was level 14 Cube to level 7 Perukia. I just find it funny that he's down double levels to those two solo lanes. With that momentum, though, WE onto the Dragon. Monkey looking to make a statement here. Grab that second one. EDG, are we finally going to break the resolve, try and look for a fight? Perukia again could be caught as pop the Steadfast Presence, and exhaust onto Cube just to hold the Renekton at bay. TP coming from behind. Xiao Hao not going to hit the perfect poly execution. It's a Gaston from Yao Hao to get double charm. Leave immediately cleanses it, transcends, it's easy, pops it in the background, and finds himself a freebie AD carry. About doesn't even have a say in this fight. He just gets taken out by the big bad Cassante. EDG in a one-man advantage, losing some of these key ultimates, and they're going to lose their take rapidly as boy do Monkey and Q push out the damage. ZZ has to flash away. Somehow trying to hold the front line. Karis goes in the back. Angel executes Monkey over the wall with a shockwave. Karis finds a trade back. We're now into a 3-on-3. Perfect execution forward. Lee's trying to kite back desperately, but doesn't have the summoners. Gets knocked up and gets cut down. WE have the final laugh in that long extended skirmish.
But nobody walks away with the Drake in the end. Everybody's now going to have to take a couple of resets, and I think it should be EDG able to at least establish themselves a little bit of control around the area and start this Drake up for themselves. No, not even. It is just going to be the full reset. So Slayer, take some deep breaths because we may well just do this all over again. Of course, we are now 20 minutes into this game. Baron is available. You don't want to be spending too much time down in the bottom side of the map. But WE, they're going to teleport a couple of members in, re-establish themselves some mid lane priority, and start this Drake up once again.
This is just third Drake of the game. So neither team... I don't want to see any, big throws over this first Hextech Drake, and it does seem for the time being that Edward Gaming are going to have to respect their opponents and give over this objective. Monkey just now going to drop the flag, drag on in to start it up. He is spotted on vision. Still got a couple ultimates that are working their way back in, and oh my gosh. All right, LPL Classic, we're TPing back in for this. It's Angel coming through here. ZDZ at bay, trying to hold 3 people in front.
Oh, no.
Somehow gonna dash in, and Karis gets caught by Perukia's steadfast presence. Down goes one key solo member. It's a whiff on the public execution from Xiao Hao, but that key pick on Karis is more than enough to finally secure them the third Drake of the game.
Oh, but they're not going to
Angel
stop
now,
right
though,
here.
Cataclysm, another steadfast presence, cuts off the engage from Yao Yao. Angel does have to flash, but the value of this Poppy has been ludicrous in these last couple of minutes.
Absolutely, as you highlighted during the draft phase, this one ability can stop so much of what WE want to do, but still from Karis, that was just really badly played. It is very telegraphed when you land that shuriken, you're about to go in. It makes it very easy to just be able to chuck up that steadfast presence and stop things dead in their tracks. And this was just after I wanted to praise Karis. In the previous team fight, he had been the one that was able to take over in that team fight and pull WE back out from what had been an otherwise pretty bad situation. Unfortunately, he does then just kind of fling himself in, and getting caught out there when you're as strong as you are, as Karis is on this Akali, just not good enough.
Just not good enough indeed. So a couple of slip-ups from our mid laners. Hopefully the pause that we've now run into has nothing to do about it. But Bloxer, this does bring up a time to talk about what I did kind of allude to when we saw the Yunar locked in. We did see the item completed. So I kind of want to talk about these good old Fiend Hunter bolts.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot and ask you to tell me what the main passive is. But the ultimate...
Which one? Night Vigil or Opening Barrage?
Oh, my God. Why would I... My bad for downing you, Bloxer. You gave me the passive names. Opening Barrage, please.
Yeah.
Break us down how overpowered this is for a leave on this Yunara.
It's basically custom built for a champion like Yunara. Fiend Hunter Bolts, I'm pretty sure, is reference to Vayne. So another champion that's very much going to enjoy pop ulti and just run at your opponents. It's after casting your ability ulti, you just get massive amounts of extra crit strike. You're going to be hitting just so much harder. You also get some bonus attack speed too. And it's just, hey, what does Yunara's ulti do? Well, you hit harder. What do you now get with Fiend Underbolts when you press ulti? You hit even harder, and then, as we were just saying, the Night Hunter Vigil, the other passive, gives you some extra ability, some ultimate haste, so you just get to pop your ulti more, have it hit even harder, and it just works so incredibly well with the kit that now that you've got that one completed, it does very much feel like Leave is unlocked.
Yeah, so those first 3 autos, you'll see that Leave throws down, or any of these ultimate-based AD carry champions are the ones that give the disgusting crits. Yeah, so the cool part to me, Bloxer, right, is that in like the early to mid game, when you're not 100% critical strike on this champion, you guarantee those 3 big autos to the crit chance, and those could be game altering if you can land them onto a squishy and just take out their health bar. But the cool part to me that I think makes this item so intrinsically valuable as the game goes on is the fact that once you have that 100% crit chance, which Yunara will always build towards, you then now get that crit come through, and it converts into true damage, 10% bonus true damage. So early to mid game, yeah, it's gross, right? Because early to mid game, if you get those autos onto squishies, you're deleting them. But now later, when usually a tank is standing in the way of Yunara to try and get these autos down, those 3 autos are just deleting a tank's health bar, where his entire job was to build up resistances, and this item just ignores it for 3 of those critical autos.
Especially now that LDR has the change coming through with Giant Slayer, which is even stronger. Even stronger into tanks. I mean, in this game, yeah, you're staring down the barrel of a couple of tanky members, but nobody that you're actually going to be worried about cutting on through. I mean, with the way that this new LDR plus Fiend Hunter gets once you get that 100% crit chance, like you said, even some of the tankiest champions in the game are kind of like butter to you. You really don't care about them anymore. But again, it is another interesting discussion about who you want to be hitting during these team fights before you get the 100%. Sure. Obviously, you want to be hitting onto the squishy as much as possible, but once you do you then just kind of focus on the tanks and hope you can front to back a little bit more? I think with this composition you've got right now that is very much set up around buying space for a Yunara, the front to back makes a lot more sense. Trying to get into the back line, trying to fling yourself over a wall into an interesting position maybe isn't the optimum play. Then again, as we've been talking about, Leave sometimes decides to do that anyway, so who knows?
Who knows? What I do know is we currently pause with EDG holding on to, I believe, about 1,000 gold lead at around 25-ish minutes. I've got the Drakes ahead of them as well. And I do think this is a bit of a worrying period for WE because we kind of talked about scaling. And when you look across the board of these comps, Yunara versus Lethality Varus, that is a wipe in favor of EDG.
Yeah.
Orianna into Akali, I would favor a bit more towards the Orianna. You've got the value of a Cassante scaling up to level 20 versus a Renekton, who you really want to get the most value at now in these mid to almost late game team fights. How much pressure do you think these next couple of minutes is being applied to WE with their comp, Bloxer?
This is the make or break moment for this composition. If you concede a couple more of these big objectives, you are really just going to have this game fall completely away from you, because as much as we were talking about how, hey, mid lane was actually looking pretty good, you were getting some decent gold into Chorus, are you actually going to get that full backline access onto Leave that you really need during these team fights? Well, with Pruka's Steadfast presence, probably not. You're able to weather that storm, though, if you are a little bit further ahead. But as this mid game really comes in right here, this is the point where you have to find yourself a couple of big team fights or a couple of big picks. I think this WE composition is very well placed to try pick somebody off before a team fight, whereas WE so far have very much been about just looking for the straight up front to back 5v5, which their composition is good at, but potentially cannot stand up to versus what EDG have.
Well, we're back onto the Rift to see if our theory crafting will come true for either of our sides. We got Baron also as a big time player in any of these fights, right? That's what, with the 20-minute Baron timers, has made the snowball effect of these games feel so refreshing. Also means the EDG one fight can really throw their entire small but hard-working lead out the window. You start to see the vision battle already being waged by Yao Yao, try and get control of that top river.
And everybody was focusing all of their attention down towards the bottom side of the map for that first Hextech Drake, and now you've got to switch all of it back up towards the top side, and Yao Yao has done an excellent job. As you said, there's one flank ward potentially right here for EDG. We'll see if they're going to be able to use that one, because one of the better users of flanks can very much be the Cassante, so if ZDZ is able to use that deeper ward effectively, that could be really good. Angel.
No flash. Ooh, the Shockwave does brunt Karis' Tyra combo first, so Angel's buying time. He should just drop to Karis, just used the whole perfect execution to find that kill, but now he's trapped between two turrets and finds himself Leave, who steps right up into him very precautiously, but he still picks up that first kill, and the rest of the cavalry has arrived, so Monkey is now even going to have to pay the price for that pick onto Angel. The stall game from that Shockwave could prove massive for EDG, because Angel falls, but with Monkey off the board as well, is Baron not just the call here for Edward Gaming?
It doesn't feel like EDG have any momentum on towards it. They're in fact going to lose this mid lane tier 1 tower for their troubles. It's just an odd play overall. EDG, though, they are now beginning to establish themselves a little bit, push around the mid lane, and bringing a couple of members over, they could well start up this Baron. Obviously, you have now waited quite a while. It's going to be resets coming on through from the WE members. Yao Yao needs to be careful. This is not your jungle.
He gets chunked out of his dash.
Ooh, ulti.
And has to use the quickness just to get himself out of his own jungle, as you called out. So more and more pressure on WE. They've lost their jungler off to a reset. He's lost camps. A key Gage ultimate's off the board. Are EG going to keep pushing the pedal down here? Doesn't seem like it. Again, they're comfortable just playing the scale game, and I respect the resolve, knowing that they feel confident every minute this game goes forward.
Absolutely, they're playing this one out pretty slowly. Interesting as well, because that does now mean we're only a minute and 30 seconds away from that next dragon spawning, and I do wonder how much EDG are really going to be focusing on that dragon. I think Hextech Drake with a Yunara is a disgusting combo as well. It's another thing that works incredibly synergistically with her kit, and so do you just play a little bit more down towards this bottom side of the map and say, hey, you can go for Baron. We don't think you can actually take Baron quickly enough that we have to constantly playing around the top side of the map. We can instead set ourselves up around these drakes that we think are slightly more valuable.
And when talking about Baron and keying into Season 16, some people are happy the Otacon's gone, some sad. Well, the resistant shred of Otacon, Boxer's happy. The resistant shred of Otacon has been given back to Baron. So any team that decides to tangle with the big purple worm, it's a lot scarier, kind of like we saw with some of those Otacon plays that, oh boy, did the LPL become very famous about. Famous moment here in our game one could be manifesting as Monkeys once get picked up by a big Matofo strikes. He has a defensive cataclysm, but the Poppy throws him against his own created wall. Monkey goes down, and WE are sputtering without their crystal gem of a jungler. It's the slow from Leave on the Arc of Ruin trying to chase down a bout, but he can't gap close there with that transcendent form. But Bloxer this time, Baron just has to be on the menu with no Monkey up.
Yeah, I mean, now that the jungler has died and you are all ready, all together, heading straight on over to the Baron is absolutely going to be the right call. But like you said, right, that extra level of shred is there. Karis as well, trying for a flank, is going to get spotted out by Angel. This could now be a fight on multiple fronts.
Oh my god, all right. Oh, there's the Great Keeper's Verdict to chuck Cube out of the pit. TP's coming through to get back in. About a 10-foot TP from Cube, but he's still too late. The Baron is secured. Big time pickup for EDG. Engage comes through for CDC. Another Tofo strikes. Karis goes into the background trying to go after Angel, but Angel's too tanky for the Ecology to deal with. They still get rid of ZDZ first. Peruki is very low. Karis, this is a massive flank if he can find it onto the critical targets. Angel gets a bit of damage down. Perukia poked out. About, can he find this kill? Flash from Perukia. Chains of Corruption gonna grab Cao Cao. Now Monkey finally re-engages to the fight. He's chucked under the turret, but they still get rid of Perukia. Cao Cao goes down as well. Baron comes at a pretty mighty cost for Edward Gaming.
Only one member of EDG gonna walk away with that Baron buff, and they're losing massively on this. You still have to walk back into base as Angel and get a little bit of health back. And with turret plates on every single tower currently, you're just shredding straight through these. Those grubs that WE were able to grab so long ago in this match, paying dividends right now.
EDG, do not look at the Baron power play gold. Do not. It's only gonna get worse. Oh my gosh. Let's go back through this.
We have a look back. Yeah, this one is wild. The teleport in is nuts. I don't know that it's actually any quicker. I'd love to do an actual analysis of how much quicker it is, because the channel feels like it takes half the time it would have taken to have just walked in. The critical thing instead is what Karis does right here. Angel missing out onto that shockwave unlocks Karis. That has been what has been ruining Karis's time playing these fights throughout every other fight we've seen previously, as well as the fact that Peruki is constantly popping that Steadfast Presence away from Karis, unlocking him to be able to play out the rest of this fight. And I like the restraint right here. Could have gone flying in, decides not to. There's a reason we talk about this as his signature champion.
Picture in picture, though, as we come out of that replay. Fourth dragon of the game. EDG still want to get right back after it. See if they get to Soul Point. Yeah, I gotta try to set up a flank. Karis has been marked by Xiao Hao and Leave, trying to keep that Akali away from the pit. But they're giving up a lot of room doing so. It's now WE that control the Dragon Pit for now. Wave pushing against them. Karis has been caught out by Xiao Hao. Leave can't get the autos through the Shroud, though. Karis down to about 40% HP. That is really big for that burst the Akali needs to throw out.
Oh, the poke, though.
Yeah. It's that Varus range we talked about, how valuable it can be. Neither team is willing to give away their battle lines by this point. Dragon down about 6k. It's again the engage on the Cube. Dove strikes from ZDZ.
Shockwave.
Slice and Dice has to get him out. Shockwave does absolutely nothing for Angel. Does that give Monkey the confidence to now look to try and go in? Or are they just going to sacrifice the Dragon knowing it's not Soul? And again, some patience showing through for WE. And no kills come from that 5v5 battle line drawn Dragon take.
And this is such a critical fight right here. EDG, you don't get any use out of the Baron, and all of the time you spend playing around that Dragon as well. No Baron minions have hit any towers. for EDG. They haven't gotten any use out of this objective, but still, they get themselves onto Soul Point. We've talked about how good the Hextech Soul could be for EDG if they're able to pick it up, but I again like the restraint out of WE. The second that Karis is at half health, there's no point in flinging him into a fight, looking for a perfect execution into the back line. He will die, and instead they just decide, hey, let's walk away, and it looks like it's going to work out for the mid lane tower going to pop as well, and you're now up by a good 1,000 gold for WE. Considering that they've lost a couple of fights in a row right here, lost out onto a couple of big objectives, still being ahead in gold is critical.
But for Edward Gaming, there still is room to win this game with one fight, right? We've seen some pretty sloppy fights, especially from Angel in the last aspect, leave classic fashion. Back in the LPL, even on a new team, gets caught in that Baron pit play. If they can just clean things up, you still favor this scaled-up Orianna, this scaled-up Yunara, this full-tank Cassante, even without the gold lead at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monkey? Oh my gosh, that was
again.
a very audacious flag and drag, but he still likes the engage. Baruki in the steadfast presence again. ZDZ's the only one trapped in the Cataclysm. Three-man Keeper's Verdict punts out all of WE, but still about finds the kill onto Perukia somehow. And Karis and About hold their own, staring down all of EDG.
That golden right there was critical for keeping Karis alive. Monkey,
another weird flag drag and some
one.
shockwave publicly executed by Xiaohao. Monkey has been off for these last couple fights, but somehow it's still not costing WE too much, but could be a foreboding warning for the WE jungler going forward.
Absolutely, you really can't afford to be dying in silly situations like this as Monkey because you have Karis and About in such strong positions. That's 4 items completed right now for About. Karis is very close to being able to complete that death cap as well. They're in great spots to be able to carry. They just need a little bit of help out of Monkey. This is not the player we expected to be dragging WE down.
Came into this series talking about how it's live by Monkey, die by Monkey, and right now his deaths have been hurting WE and might hurt Karis here as he potentially gets caught on the sideline. Perukia, though, looking a bit dizzy, trying to pace back and forth away from that fat wall. And Karis gets out, also claiming Angel Zanya's, so
yes,
it's only going to get worse when the Rabdons comes through.
Exactly, that is critical right there, that in a 3v1 situation, Karis still able to get something out of it. We'll have a look back at this one. Monkey, that's the sort of flag of drag you do when you're in your base just trying to get to your camps a little bit quicker. That's not something you do towards an unsighted bush, and the fact that you're still able to get anything out of this right here is crazy. About shouldn't be able to step up as far forwards as he was in that fight, but he has that spell shield active. This, though, is egregious. If the first one's bad, the second one is infinitely worse, and unfortunately you just don't have the damage to be able to turn that one back into a kill. Monkey needs to switch on right now, because WE are on the verge of being able to win this game.
One fight could really end this game. We're 33 minutes in, death timer's getting long, and Baron is back up, and we're still fighting around that same pesky Fairlight vision into the top river. EDG holding strong. Monkey looking for the engage without his flash, still has that clutch Cataclysm. Key thing to look out for, though, is this fight around Baron. Leaf should have all summoners, his ult up, so maybe there's a bit more room for him to make mistakes, but it's a public execution onto Monkey, the first engage. Great stuff from Perukia. Cataclysm back over for Monkey, but it's too little too late. Leaf picks up the first kill. Yao Yao nearly gets popped trying to go back in to save him, and we're back to the same story block, sir. Monkey is picked off with Baron up. Can EDG take it? No.
No. No. As of last time, they've realized this is not anywhere as near as easy to do in a 5v4 situation as they would have otherwise hoped. But again, Monkey cannot be dying here. The fact that you're not losing out onto these big objectives is good, but you don't want to just be having this even situation right here as W. You want to be pushing the pace of this game forwards a little bit more. You're seeing it increasingly that About just isn't dealing the same amount of damage. His poke, when it doesn't land onto Angel or Leaf, when it hits anybody else, it feels like it's not really doing anything. Now, the Sympathang does come through, so that should help. Should get a little bit of extra power into About's poke, but he really just needs some time to sit and hit, and he's not getting that with Monkey flying in.
Monkey just respawns. The Hextech Soul Dragon has spawned right after him. Monkey, thanks to the Hex Gates, gets right back up with his team, but EDG have first track towards the pit here, and they're trying to hold strong with these vision lines. It's ZDZ on the front line, trying to see if he can get any Notofo Strike throwbacks. Perukia nearby as well. Dominus popped. 4 cube. Gets chunked out pretty handedly.
Oh, but Leave.
And now EDG can just wait out that ultimate, but as you pointed out, Bloxer, Leave is poked out very low, and Monkey is trying to hunt and find him. Gets the inside track towards the Drake pit. Leave is trying to force a reset here. EDG might just have to wave the white flag on this dragon, but ZDZ wants to go in. Their jugglers in here. Leave transcends to try and look for the fight, but about deletes him. Monkey, can he get in to secure the dragon? Yes, he can as well. No soul here for EDG. It's an absolute collapse thanks to Leave's low health bar, ruining any chance at the soul. WE now break the door open on our back and forth game 1.
And they can head straight on up towards the Baron. You can send a couple of members back to take a reset, establish yourself at mid lane priority, and you've still got 30-second death timers on both Leave and ZDZ. It's going to make it incredibly difficult for EDG to fight back. As you talked about, Leave being low ruined that team fight, and then it's the disconnect in EDG. Half of them deciding to go in, half of them wanting a reset, and they just do not play out that fight well.
What makes it so weird is we have a ton of rosters in the LPL this year that we're willing to give time for because there's so much changes to their lineups. That's not the case for EDG. This is the team that we praised their cohesion for in Group Nirvana outside of Leave, and now they look completely disjointed these last 10 minutes.
It is one spell rotation. A single spell rotation from About. We just talked about how he'd gotten to that 5-item mark and was in an incredibly strong position. Well, that is what you can do, and Leave, he has to turn around right here and try to fight with his team, but he just gets one-tapped. I mean, those piercing arrows are doing all of the damage needed. And fascinatingly, in that team fight, Karis never even really gets involved. That is a fight won without your mid laner, where the majority of the gold from your team is. So WE, they pick that one up, they grab themselves a dragon, stop it from being sold to EDG, grab themselves a Baron too, and unlike EDG's Baron, theirs is currently netting them positive gold.
It's still a very marginal gold lead for this game. 2,000 at the 36-minute point. Doesn't mean a ton, right? We're getting to the point where a lot of full builds are coming through, except for those 7-item 80 carries. So it's all going to come down to execution here. Nonetheless, WE, they want to take more real estate on the map as they look to try and set up a 4-1 towards this bot lane tier 2 turret. The jungle battle being waged, though, for this Vision. Monkey always looking for an engage, seeing if he can find an angle onto Angel or Leave, who has just now been spotted towards that brush near the blue side base. For the moment, though, EDG holds strong, but they should have to sacrifice this tier 2 soon.
Yeah, that tier 2 takes most of its HP down just to a couple of Baron Empowered minions. Ooh, Chains of Corruption just about going to go wide. That could be critical if we get a big team fight right now. For the minute, WE though showing good restraint, pushing forwards as far as they can, but not over-forcing onto these towers, letting these Baron Empowered cannon minions do the majority of the work for them, because as much as EDG's composition is very fun, it's pretty short-ranged, and that's making clearing out these minions very tricky.
Especially with About just cycling these big piercing arrows over and over again. If Leave gets hit by one of them, I mean, look at ZDZ. He still gets about 15% of his HP bar chunked out from these piercing arrows, and that's your tank.
They can't clear the wave. They cannot clear the wave.
Okay, Perukia's maybe looking for Cube here. There's a double charm from Yao. Yao gets the knock up on the Xiao Hao. They're going after Perukia as the easy target. About gets the first kill. Xiao Hao's down, gets the GA pop next. And again, it's EDG dysfunction. Leave and CDZ are just now coming out of the base to try and rescue this fight, but it feels too little too late. And there's Kara sweeping in for the big multi-kill. Just like that, WE have rescued themselves from woeful early mistakes and punished EDG for a disjointed late game to game 1.
It's gonna be over right here, right now. Teleport coming back in just to try maybe stop something from happening. ZDZ, though, in the face of all of these Baron empowered minions, is going to fall. And what a matchup right here from WE. The underdogs coming into this match, and they're able to overcome some interesting play from their superstar jungler.
Yeah, Bloxer, can you tell it's the first game of the year for these two teams? Because it definitely showed through to me.
Yeah, just a little bit. Very disjointed, couple of weird mistakes back and forth, but it felt like the beginnings of this game really did spoil the end of it for you. Right from the first couple of minutes, we're talking about weird positioning out of Leave. We're talking about how Monkey really needs to get involved a little bit more and is maybe not able to fully push the pace of the game forwards enough. That keeps happening, except Monkey has his teammates playing well enough to overcome a couple of odd engages and finds a couple of big moments for himself. The steal around Soul is particularly big, but Leave never stops stepping up in situations where he really shouldn't, doesn't have the fancy feet engaged towards the end to stop himself from losing a couple of those big flashes, those big cooldowns, and it costs his team dearly.
Yeah, and while Leave definitely deserves a lot of the blame for some of these spots in the game, again, there's just EDG, the last, these critical 10 minutes of a game, like 26 minutes to 36 minutes, they just weren't on the same page, even like trying to set up the peel that they kind of preach for this Yunara comp, and nothing really tells the tale more. I'm sure we'll get it when we look back at the highlights. Your support and your jungler are caught outside your base, and your top laner and AD carrier are sitting in Fountain. That's never a recipe to ever win a game, Bloxer.
No, absolutely not. It's such an odd couple of moments right here from EDG, especially, and we'll keep highlighting this because it's so weird to see. This is 4/5 of the same team that you had last split that looked pretty dang good, and you bring in what should be, for everybody's money, an upgrade at the ADC position, and yet it just doesn't feel like the synergy is there. And it's not just the synergy between Leave and the rest of his team, although that did feel pretty rough, but the whole team feels disjointed in a way you simply would not expect.
And for WE, very loud win here to have, you know, like we talked about coming into this matchup, live by monkey, die by monkey. Felt like WE should have been put 6 feet under a couple of times for Monkey's decision making, but I mean, it's a very small sample size, but through one game, the other 4 members of WE kind of made it work every time Monkey punted it.
Okay. We have to keep in mind, we have to bear in mind right here, that yes, this was an overall pretty good looking game. However, Chorus had good games on one champion all of last split.
That's a good thing.
And
to
it was
point
this
out.
one.
Yep.
It was this Akali. So now, with Fearless going into game number 2, can Chorus replicate it? Because I am ready for the Chorus redemption arc. I am ready for him to pop off into the mid laner everybody has been hoping that he could turn into. We'll be the first to admit, right, Slayer, that he had a rough last year. 2025 was not kind to Kars, and Kars in turn was not kind to WE. But if he's turning a corner right here, which, hey, this Akali game was pretty fun to watch, that would unlock them. Monkey can't do it by himself, and if he actually has some members around him able to push the boat forwards and play alongside him, that's awesome. And it was even beyond that in this game. They made up for his mistakes.
Without a doubt. And as we get into some of these highlights, you're going to see like some worrying trends for EDG going forward. It's going to be Angel with some bad missed shock waves, Leave getting poked out a lot of these fights early. And yeah, this the Baron felt like the beginning of the end, right? For a lot of their playmaking.
You are in such a good spot. You have killed your enemy jungler and you are walking up to the Baron. And you just lose this fight on 2 fronts. Chorus does a very good job of being able to split this fight out. And that was the main thing for me during this fight. It was the fact that Perukia wasn't able to get those big steadfast presence off. And Angel, after being so good with the shockwave during the early portion of the game, constantly using it to either get his team kills or to get himself out of trouble, missed 3 big shockwaves on the bounce, all 3 of them whiff. And that was the just difference maker right here. The shockwave is such an integral part of the team fight for this composition that when you whiff it 3 times, there's so little that you can do.
That was definitely the story of our featured matchup there from about the one of the lesser talked about imports coming into the splits, but he definitely not only bested Leave in some of these exchanges, but again, another thing I want to praise WE for, this game goes 36.5 minutes, and they're the team we thought got completely outscaled, and they didn't agree with that at all.
No, absolutely not. It was very interesting to see with About, the second that he got himself that Serpent's Fang, it felt like he was able to start dealing damage again. He hit this point where he'd kind of scaled alongside, in line with his opposition Poppy and the opposition Cassante, and those champions were tanky enough to have dealt with him and could tank 3-4 arrows to the face in a row, and it really didn't matter. He all of a sudden gets that Serpent's Fang, cutting straight through those shields, and was able to step up and start dealing damage to tanks again, which made the tanks scared, pushed them a little bit further back in their positioning, and then opened up Leave to getting attacked in ways he wasn't previously. Such a pivotal item that comes in just before the last couple of team fights.
And as we wait for our, I guess that's the integral question I'll ask you, Blocks, here. Oh, I hear our noise.
Okay.
Player of the game, quickly, Bloxer. And Okay, all right.
That's not what I would have said right here.
I didn't think that's who you were going to say.
No.
I think you were going to say the mid laner for WE, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is shocking to me right now. To be fair, there were a couple of weird plays out of Cars, but I'm looking at player of the game in terms of who for WE did I expect to step up and who did step up. Cars would have been bottom of my list, and I thought he was great. About also had a very good game, but I think really, more than anything, I was particularly excited down in the bottom lane, but not with him. Instead, I thought that overall, Yao Yao had a really good look. He was able to get involved in quite a lot of those fights, and was just, again, buying space and time for Cars and about to do their thing.
Well, it's a good thing for WE that Blocks, you're praising their 2 new additions to that bottom lane after a game 1. But it is safe to say we had a rusty start to the group perseverance in our first showing from Team W and EDG. Definitely a game either team could win, but now it's Edward Gaming that have to find a way to win the next 2 games to find their first series win in the LPL Split 1 2026. Or do WE get to bring the brooms out of our last series of the day? We'll find out that and much more after this extended break. Welcome back, everybody, to LPL English, the unofficial coverage in English of the LPL. And, well, we had ourselves a interesting start to Group Perseverance. WE get the win, but well, let's just say it could have been either team taking this one, and definitely not the start that a pretty hyped-up EDG roster wanted to see, Bloxer.
No, we're coming in here with wildly flipped expectations for this game number 2. EDG were the heavy favourites. It looked like it should have been a 2-0 on paper, but that's why we play the games on the Rift. And WE, they come out swinging in that first one. The thing I want to do, the bit of pause I want to put on this again, is that there was a lot of champions that WE really like. And so I do want to see what they can do in another game, specifically with cars not on that Akali. Still, I don't want to rain on a WE parade that has only just started. If they're able to take this matchup versus EDG, either in a 2-0 or in a 2-1, that will be a massive change in our expectations for this team going forward.
Yeah, and, you know, it really feeds into the conversation we've had about how fun our two bottom groups are right now, with the fact that we've separated from 2 groups to 3 groups, with Group Perseverance and Group Nirvana, based off of, you know, the seeding based off of last year's placements, right? Makes these groups really interesting, because now if you're WE, this group is EDG, NIP, Thunder Talk, right? And Bloxer, if they can get this win over EDG, I don't mean to kind of be... Yeah, I don't really mean to be too negative, but I would say that roster-wise, NIP and Thunder Talk unfortunately had probably clear downgrades. So if you're WE that gets the win over EDG, you're probably favored in these other 2 matchups in the first round robin. You've set yourself on a pretty good path to the top of Group Perseverance in my mind.
Absolutely haven't. That's going to be really critical going on forwards, as we've been looking at, right, with our roadmap going on forwards. Perseverance is kind of the linchpin between everything else, right? That is the place that you want to be getting as many wins as possible to get yourself the best matchup going on forwards into those play-ins for the playoffs. Whether or not you go very far in those playoffs isn't, I think, the main goal for these teams. Winning Group Perseverance is massive, especially for what it does for you for the next split. The fact that you can then get yourself up into a Group Ascend, put yourself versus some of those best teams next time around, that is going to be massive. And also, you just want to avoid the quagmire that is being down in the bottom of Group Nirvana. I really do think that WE winning right here would be massive for just the expectations of this group. I think that would put them as the favorites overall.
It is, you know, it is double round robin, right? So EDG, if they do end up getting swept here, they'll have another crack at WE regardless. Anything can happen with having to play 6 games in this group. But yeah, I think this would be a very good start for WE to kind of set themselves up to top themselves in the play-in stage. As Group Perseverance in that play-in stage, the fact they're in the middle group, they all get to participate in this play-in, so it'll just be kind of fighting for seeding, which will be the interesting part. But I don't want to get too far ahead as we get set for this Game 2 draft. And with that first selection looming for EDG, Bloxer, how would you like to see him use it? Select red side so they get a counter pick, take first selection. What do you want to see them do?
I think for the way that they've been playing recently, you still probably do just want to grab yourself your blue side, your first pick nowadays, and just see what you can grab that's off of the top end of the market. There are a couple champions that are still kind of 100% bans at the moment. In fact, Jace is an 100% ban right now in the LPL. Nobody has allowed that one through. That's the exact same going on in the LCK Cup as well. Nobody has been allowing that one over. Indeed, EDG, they do grab themselves what should be that first pick here, I think. I think that's the way around that this is.
Yes. Yes. If I am not mistaken, that is what we've seen selected here. Yeah, so that is the first pick. I've used my cheat sheet to secure a first pick. So EDG do want first pick. WE then decided to pick blue side. So EDG will have... it's basically the same kind of draft from last time, right? WE, though, showing that they really prioritize playing on the blue side here. As we see bans, classic bans, right? The Jace you called out stays permabanned. The Silas is a big player. Aphelios, Wukong is a good takeaway from both Xiao Hao and Monkey. So what does this first pick look like? Where do EDG want to put some power into their composition?
For EDG, I feel like that first pick has kind of had a little bit of the best stuff taken away from it instantaneously. In terms of champions that have been picked a lot recently, you kind of were looking at the Malphite as that final remaining option. You don't want to be grabbing yourself a Sivir or a Tilia or a Ryzer that early on into the game, so they are just going to grab themselves that Malphite. The response very quickly from WE looks like it is going to be that Azir, looking to get a little bit later on into the game potentially. There's another pick that Karis played quite a lot of during the previous year, but not a champion I was particularly impressed with him playing, unlike that Akali, so it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do with this one. In terms of junglers still available that people have been going for a lot, you still potentially could be looking towards something like the Xin Zhao. They're going to go towards the Mundo instead, though. Now, Mundo has benefited massively from a lot of the changes that have come on through with the laning phase, with having the extra levels, also items available as well. Some of the new items are great on him, so we'll see what the pickup will be into this Mundo. If it's a top laner, it could also just be a jungler, of course.
Yeah, so I do want to praise Hong from LGD yesterday. This is going to be the constant response to the Malphite power, is that Mundo can really nullify a lot of the problems Malphite can cause, obviously with the spell shield and just health to innately tank the burst. So I like that jungle pickup. A lot of control, though, in a lot of these skirmishes with the Talia coming through for Angel, and WE now... Blocks are kind of saying that they want to avoid most 5v5s, which I think is with the Yorick pickup, because I think that's kind of a smarter decision. Gnar Malphite is a scary prospect no matter who you're drafting on the other side.
Yes, and I do think that there has been a lot of extra power that has been put into the Yorick. The split pushing is something that Riot's really pushing, as we've been talking about, and so being able to grab this one is pretty fun. Still, I'm always suspicious of a composition that tries to play around this Yorick, unless you're Bin. You know, unless you're 369, are you really going to be able to play this champion to a level that you can actually make something happen with it? Cube played a lot of the Yorick during the last year, and he wasn't particularly impressive on it in a lot of situations. It wasn't a champion that WE were really able to get too much going with, and if Monkey's having a bit of an iffy game, you don't want to be taking less agency on other lanes too, so this does worry me just a little bit. Still, you've given yourself some split push, some late game scaling, some decent looking team fights. Really, you need to round out your team fight, though, right now with the ADC pickup. You need something pretty high-powered for a bout, probably with a lot of mobility, too. Otherwise, you're going to get caught out horribly from that Malphite.
And we've got the two most picked AD carries so far, obviously, off the board thanks to Fearless. So there's no Varus, there's no Yunara, no LPL Kai'Sa can come through here. It's going to be the Sivir, right? So, okay, a lot of, I want to say, like, propping up each other as a team, right? With the Sivir, you have the speed-ups. And I just want to say, with the Azir and Yorick and the Sivir locked in, there's so much wave clear. They really are just leading into controlling every lane state they possibly can, WE.
Okay, but do you survive for more than 6 seconds as a bout in this composition, right? Yes, you've got yourself that spell shield, but does spell shield really help when you've got a Gnar ulting on you and a Malphite ulting on you, and also you've got to constantly be looking out to not get seismic shoved? Oh, and now there's a Rel with a Magnet Storm jumping on top of your head. I don't know how well you survive during these team fights. I don't know that that's going to be a particularly easy one to play out. Yes, the Sivir is definitely the highest power ADC left, but in this composition, I'm very worried about its longevity during these team fights. For EDG, though, like we said, they are just rounding out with a lot of big, high-powered ultis, and for ADC, I think you want some hyperscaling later on. I was going to say the Aphelios, they're instead going to go on towards the Jinx, something we've not seen too much of so far, but I am very excited to see, and I think this is a great composition for it.
Tough spot for Yao Yao here, because with everything EDG are throwing at him, Peel feels like it's got to be the pick, but you've lost Braum, you've lost Alistair, you need a tank. You can't wager an enchanter here, so what else are you looking at? Okay, Lulu. Oh, okay, thank God. Okay, whoo! I hate casting Yuumi. All right, Lulu's better. All right, but again, that's another very susceptible champion to this whack-a-mole style Malphite Gnar relegage.
If I had to gut reaction to this composition that we see right here, Slayer, we're going to game number 3. I am very, very suspicious.
On that one. I respect
very, very suspicious of what we are seeing right here out of WE. I think in isolation, a composition where I don't see what the other side have picked up for themselves, I can see what they're going for, right? You've got a ton that you can boost right here onto the Azir, onto the Sivir. The Lulu, one of those interesting supports when paired with the Azir that actually gives him a ton of benefits. Usually the Lulu's just big for the ADC. No, both of them are going to love having that extra level of auto-attacking that you can be putting down. That can be pretty fun. But this is the beginnings of a composition I would have really wanted a top laner with your team fighting for. Are you going to bring Cube down constantly, or is he going to be off split pushing the whole time? The only saving grace I feel for this team is that EDG have not proven to us that they are a cohesive roster yet, and that can make it very difficult to deal with the macro implications of a Yorick. If you're getting pulled around the map constantly and you're not having good communication going on within your team, that can be very tricky. So there is one way in which I think WE can make this work. Still, I do very much prefer the composition EDG have.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bloxer. I'm wary to ever select the slow, methodical, macro approach team in the LPL. The region, if you didn't know, is known for bombastic team fighting and throwing everything at a wall until somebody wins. Nonetheless, though, I will have immense respect if WE can pull this off. To sweep EDG, a team they are not favored to win against, by playing the map, by dominating the lanes, and playing for split pushing, because in that capacity, they've got Yorick to hold down one side lane. Azir will be massive in the other, and about, no matter how far behind or how much threat he will be under in the mid lane later on, deletes any waves that comes his way. So, as we get onto the Rift, Bloxer, I'm already going to call to it. I know the timer is 7 minutes, but WE, Grubs, may decide this game is, all right, we're just passing the ghost check with our AD carries. That's a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, honestly. In this situation, why not try to get a little bit aggressive, see what you can get? This should be a WE-dominated bot lane, that double range into the melee matchup, and just also the poke that a Lulu can put down anyway. Pix gets so much extra damage down onto those auto-attacks. It can be really oppressive to try to play against, and junglers starting split map here, rather than both starting topside and working their way down towards the bottom lane. So you do have that extra level of support from your jungler come in for WE, so they can afford to get a bit more aggressive, although right now they are going to lose the battle to level 2, and that is going to make it a little bit harder to step to the wave.
Yeah, missed out on XP on that last melee minion, so he is sitting on level 1 still on top of all of that. Good little boomerang toss from About, though, will pick that one up. The one stark difference among many that I want to point out here for this game, too, is Monkey is not on the Jarvan that can look to gank from level 3. It's going to be a bit of a snooze fest from our two junglers. Both of them are very reliant on getting ultimate up, especially Salhao on this Malphite.
Absolutely, and looking at these compositions further as we're beginning to get through this early laning phase, I do think there's a chance for WE to pull this on through from a couple of different spots. As you say, right, there's a lot of tankiness that maybe you can't deal with. I just worry for the longevity of About. Does he get to hit for a second? At least Karis has a little bit of extra mobility with the shifting sands. I just don't know that you get to survive long enough to deal your damage. Heal going to come on through as well right here for the extra speed up, and that's a lot of those bot lane summoners just gone. Monkey sticks around, throws a briefcase, but isn't really going to be able to get anything more done in this situation. Both junglers as well should be able to grab their individual scuttle grabs, so no big leads coming on through at the very start of this game, but both teams posturing quite a lot.
I just love how level 1 we saw both 80 carries pop their ghosts at virtually the same time, and at level 3 we watched both supports pop their heal at virtually the same time. So just a funny little mirrored coincidence there. Nonetheless, it's going to be junglers getting those first resets through, and yeah, this game is going to be pretty slow paced until we get ultimates online, which will play to WE's hand, but that is just going to be such a critical point. I'm curious how much on the neutral objective front they're going to sacrifice. Yao, though, gets caught in the choppers.
No.
That flash won't even save him. This should be Leave easily securing first blood. It's Perukia that grabs it, but a gross misposition for an Enchanter support pick here in lane.
Absolutely. You were talking about how you didn't think they could afford to go Enchanter. Well, not having that engaged support could be critical as we get later on into the game, but for right now, it should mean that you're able to step up and push your opponents around during laning phase, but you can't get caught by those Flame Chompers. A gross misposition, as you said, and that really is going to cost about. He just wants to sit here and absorb these waves as much as possible. Getting pushed around here just really not going to be fun. Still, about now going to step up, see what damage he can do as Yao Yao is back into lane. Shouldn't result in any kills though, although Proki is sticking around quite a long time. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just delaying that reset coming on through buys you a little bit of extra time to establish this freeze. And yeah, keep it up. This is going to be a little bit tricky to potentially break, especially because you don't have your jungler anywhere nearby. Xiao Hao's still taking chickens.
I like the heads-up play there from About. It's nice that he gets the leave cancel, but the main win there was pulling that way. That's a really heads-up move to see from a player, again, who is, you know, forging his way into the Tier 1 landscape of League here after biding his time with that Gen G Academy spot and already showing off some of, you know, some smart tactics that he is willing to utilize. As we now get to a peek at Monkey paying another visit towards the bot side. It's important to remember that Leave, to help secure that first blood, also does flash with About. Monkey is playing like he has maximum dosage. Is this just the curse of the choppers for this early game? Monkey has to flash away, but Peruki again flashes to secure another kill for this EDG bottom lane. About, even with Lethal Temple, should find a trade. It's the zap slow onto Yao Yao. Leave throwing down some pretty heavy rockets. Crash down from Perukia. Barrier shield from the E. No, Perukia is 3-0 for EDG to start this game out.
God, can you imagine if all of those kills were going on to Leave right now? How crazy that would be. That's the saving grace for WE, that the kills are not going onto that main carry. It's just going to be one that turret plate as the extra gold into Leave's back pocket. Still, it's going to be working out great for him. 600 gold above his opponent right now. So we have a look, top lane, not going to land that ulti, but Cube should just be able to keep the sustain up. I mean, this is the big joy of having yourself this Yorick.
I'm just a little bit dumbfounded. Oh, no.
Not again.
Oh, sweet About. Good
Not
spell
again.
shield. It doesn't matter. It's still the rock on top of you. Xiao gets ultimate value.
This is
hold
the
on.
Wow.
All right, let's see about this dive. Right, Monkey, level 5, by the way. All right, good grass stack. He almost dies to the turret still. Is this the same WE team I just saw scrap back from a wary game 1? What happened to that team?
Well, it is still definitely the same Monkey we just watched flag and drag into nowhere 6 times. I don't know what Monkey is doing here. As you said, he is playing like he's got that ulti up and available, but there is no dosage in sight. And so far, Leave has been pinpoint accurate with these Flame Chompers, although, you know, not to give him too much credit, his opponents have been walking straight into them repeatedly.
Oh, okay, Cube.
Apparently that didn't matter, although Angel...
That's
okay.
Oh, okay. I think, you know what? I think I can figure out this one. I'm going to put my detective cap on. Sherlock Holmes, the American going for the Sherlock Holmes reference here, I might add. I think Cube disconnected here, Bloxer.
Quite possibly, although... maybe he just decided to stand right there and allow that fight to happen to him.
Moment, right?
True,
like, I'm dead.
True. Very true. That first game, it felt a little bit rusty out of these teams, but this second game... Are we sure we're not in Group Nirvana right now? This is some weird play coming through.
And, you know, there was an argument to be had with how the groups were seeded that some of the teams in Group Perseverance, I'm not going to name names, some of them should have been Group Nirvana teams.
Yes.
I can confidently tell you it was neither of the two teams we're supposed to be watching today. But I agree. They're playing like this is Group Nirvana.
Yeah, this is a little bit weird, especially when you look at some of the overall rosters that you've got, right? There's 2 teams I'm looking at in Group Nirvana who seem like they could very well be sitting in with 2 of the teams that we've got here in Group Perseverance, but like I said, the seeding is what the seeding is, and I'm not entirely sure why a lot of these things we've just watched on our screen have happened. Limit testing, potentially new patch, you don't actually know quite how strong your champion is, but these are not champions that have had too many major changes coming on through. The itemization has certainly changed, and the way that bot lane is played has changed, but not for the first couple of minutes. For the first couple of minutes, the only difference is now you actually have to play your lane. Previously, you know, everybody was off of bot lane within about 6 seconds of the game starting. Now you actually have to sit around in your lane a little bit longer, and it's been very interesting to see what that's actually done to supports specifically. Supports have not actually spent any time in bot lane in like 2 years at this point. All of a sudden, they're having to spend more time there, and we're seeing a lot more 2v2 kills, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. And that is part of the sort of rallying cry behind enchanters making their way back into pro play more, is that usually the biggest gripe on those enchanters was that even if they were matching roams on the map, you're obviously going to be a lot less effective for those grub fights, a lot less effective for those, mid to top lane looks, because what does a Lulu do? Pull up in like polymorph and throw a shield in versus Perukia with the rel that would be able to like actually gank like a jungler. But again, unfortunately, Yao Yao, you are not doing the enchanter community any credit in this game.
No, as of right now, it's looking pretty dang rough down in the bottom lane, and then you get the weird play top lane that may potentially be because of a disconnect, or may potentially be because of, as you put it, aura farming up in the top lane. We'll have to see if we do actually get a Chrono Break back. That would be interesting, although obviously we're going to hope
because he gets a kill, so it's like weird. Like how?
Yeah.
Like would you Chrono Break until like just the moment he gets the kill? Because I do have to say, like, I hope we don't get too nitpicky with this situation. I think regardless if Cube has access to his computer well enough or not, it was Angel, Weaver's walling up. He's tanking aggro.
Yeah.
I think Cube dies nonetheless.
Yes. Yeah. I think you are right in that situation. Still, you want it to be as accurate as possible to what the players would have actually wanted to do. Allowing the game to be played out whilst a player isn't connected isn't obviously ideal. We are obviously sorry that this pause is happening, but first week or so of the LPL here, a couple of technical hiccups to get on past. Hopefully we'll jump back into this one pretty quickly. The previous pause did end quickly enough.
Yeah, so that should be getting things set in stone pretty well. Bloxer, I guess this gives us time. The most fun thing to do about the start of the LPL, I think, is kind of plant flags on teams you back, plant, throw out takes. So we can spend time doing that. I'm gonna plant a flag for you here. I think never mind. You'll have to stay tuned for that. We're back on the Rift. Haha. Cliffhanger.
I have been saved from having to have an opinion. Thank you very much to the technical team there at the LPL. Although I'm very interested to see what flag I was going to have to defend. I mean, you know me pretty well at this point. Come on, give it to me. What was it?
Okay, the letters of the team are... I'm going to rearrange them out of order.
Okay.
NGL. Okay, hold on. So, all right. I mean, did the ghouls get this done on their own? Or is there going to be a flash Q? There's no way it's just the ghouls, right? Oh, no, here we go. Here's the Chad Q.
Boom.
Over the turret! All right, that's style points to Cube.
That's nice. I really like that little replay right there as well. And so we do get that kill confirmed on through. EDG up 5-1. Yes, I am quite excited about LNG.
Okay,
and a specific man on LNG as well. But,
yeah. I will quickly state it. The 1xN fan club is always open to new members.
Absolutely. I feel like you really founded that for me and passed the 1xN love on, and now I'm a stalwart 1xN defender. We're going to get to go over a game of theirs next week, which I'm very excited for. Woo. Obviously, for right now, between these two teams, I've also been loving Monkey. Monkey has been awesome.
This is the big win con we talked about.
Yeah.
Are they really just going to give these grubs? Okay, so how you have to know that, all right, I think it's going to be 3 grubs. No, it's going to be 2. That's still a win. No, it's just going to be 2. Monkey is close by to maybe try and shut this gank down. Cube is seriously throwing hands into ZDZ, but there's the unstoppable force, and there is the might of the big boulder. Monkey says, all right, Cube, your sacrifice was not in vain. I did, in fact, pick up all 3 grubs.
I think, right here, as a Yorick, you are supremely happy with that. Oh, I die once, but I now get grubs for the rest of this game to be able to hit towers harder? Absolutely, I'll take that. Wonderful, thank you very much. Those ghouls plus grub combo can be just miserable to try to deal with on a split push, especially when you're trying to quickly clear out a wet pushing wave and then come and join a team fight, as ZDZ will be wanting to do right here on the Gnar. It's made a little bit easier, of course, with Gnar having that ranged form means you don't have to take quite so much damage from them, but still, it will be very interesting to see how much that means for later on in the game, because as much as you are happy to grab these grubs, that is now 6 kills going over to EDG, and that's resulting in a near 3k gold lead.
Which is a pretty... pushing insurmountable levels, I would say, most of the time for pre-10 minutes into this game. And if there's one, it's like the push and pull, right, of a comp like this or WE. You're willing to play slow. You do have to make sacrifices, but there's sacrifices and then there's giving everything. And
yes,
we're approaching that point, unfortunately, for WE, where they will have to make tough decisions and kind of sacrifice their comp identity. And even then, I don't know if that will go well on top of it.
Not convinced of that either. I think it's very odd that they decided to go for as many fights pre-level 6 as they did, considering how much level 6 was really going to give them. Now, Angel, using that weave as well.
Oh, no.
Little
Angel,
gap in
you
the
left
end.
it a little short, buddy. All right, Seismic Stuff still lands, and then ZDZ uses the Gnarl to throw Cube even further away from his turret. The minion wave nearly blocks enough for Cube, but I like this play from EDG. They know that this Yorick has 3 grubs, so what are they going to do? Perma-gank him.
Yeah, just take a kill every single time he steps up a little bit too far. And yes, you lose out onto a turret plate and a bit mid lane, but look at what's going on in the top lane right now. ZDZ just ripping his way on through this tower, going to be able to grab himself a couple more turret plates too, and that gold lead does extend out to the 3k we were talking about previously. I wouldn't call it insurmountable yet, but I think it is getting very close. And when we were analysing these two team compositions, it wasn't the first 5 minutes of the game that I thought were going to be the problem for WE.
About. Good. Sixth Sense again. Oh, Perukia with the Hezi. All right, About still safe here, or is he going to fall for the classic double roundabout? Nope. All right, About showing well. We saw in the first game that he has a pretty good sense about when he has to play pretty safe on his marksman, so he will avoid that gank. But again, like you're pointing out, we're soon going to see manifest how much EDG can get on the map for this pretty big lead they've got. There's still time taken for basically every champion on the side of WE. And it could be a dragon they have to give up. Good little dash from Karis to get away from Angel's seismic shove. But this dragon should be a guarantee for EDG to get them pretty online in the stacking department. They're going to try and look to chase down Leave, but the Ghost will give him just enough room to get away from any slows.
And he's having to pop these summoner spells quite regularly. I mean, we saw it in the previous game as well, and the Jinx, another one, squishy, immobile. You really don't want to be losing out. Still, in this game, there's so much less engage that you really have available to you as WE. What are you actually looking towards in terms of engage you're scared of from the WE side? In this situation, I think it's literally just Karis' ulti. Everything else is just somebody running at you, and that doesn't really scare a lot of these players.
Nice little cancel there from Leave. About really wants this reset because he needs the Essence Reaver to stay competitive in these waves, clearing these waves. It's also forcing Monkey to hang out down here to catch the wave he's going to miss out on. I see About is already immediately sprinting towards that mid lane. That's intriguing to me, Bloxer, because his AD carry quest is not done.
No. But in this situation, you are just getting pushed around in this lane so much that, yes, you're technically getting slightly less towards those stacks. You're getting half towards those stacks for being able to pick yourself up kills and tower plates and everything. But at the same time, if you're getting none in the bot lane, well, half of none is still none, you might as well go and try and get yourself some lanes and some waves that you can actually try to step up to. But of course, it does then spread the hurt around. About isn't able to lane as easily as he wants to, so now you're kicking Karis out of his lane, and he's not getting towards his quest either. This is a wide-ranging consequence of these new individualized lane quests.
So we'll see how much longer it takes About to catch up to Leave, who's already completed his quest, gotten access to that gold injection, and the boot slot given over. Good to see Leave also prioritizing the return of one of those items the League used to know, the Storm Razor. I was curious to see how the Jinx would get built out, because like you talked about, Bloxer, doesn't feel like Jinx has much of a place in the meta, at least the best of threes yet, so curious how you think the Storm Razor interacts with a champion like Jinx.
I think it's gonna give you that just little extra bit of oomph that you really want, that you can really try to push a little bit further forwards and try to play around. I do like the build path of it, although I think Young Towers is still more of the standard pick. That's what a lot more people have been going towards, building as if none of the changes coming through have really mattered. So I'll be interested to see what the rest of this build with the Storm Razor is actually going to be.
BF Sword has a lot of possibilities. It might just be classic IE rush. We'll have to figure that one out. There's about finally catching up in the quest department, so it's going to be just Yao Yao we're waiting on with that Lulu. Karis looking for a play here.
Okay.
Really good stream and shuffle and Angel. Unfortunate update for you, Karis. There's a big boulder that can just fly over a wall and hit you hard. Tries to flash away from Cao Hao. The rocket won't land, but the rolling rock will from Cao Hao. The kill picked up for Karis. Was a nice look on the Azir, but just unfortunate timing.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, you really just need a little bit of extra vision to know what was happening, and this does very much feel...
Push. Oh! There we go.
Not quite gonna do it right there, just gonna be able to get away. Yeah, as we said, pretty much straight after the draft, I was like, I think we're gonna be going to a game 3, and so
Good
far,
call.
that has very much been coming to fruition. Hey, I cannot claim to have known the way it was going to happen. I didn't expect this level of explosivity and walking straight into flame chompers that we have seen so far in this game. 5,000 gold now at 15 minutes. You're talking about insurmountable leads before. This feels pretty damn close.
And it's shocking to see that it's actually ZDZ that's ended up with the biggest lead here, but Angel's once again being prosecuted in his bottom lane stay. Goes under the turret, but this is where Mundo likes to thrive with the maximum dosage. And WE finally get back on the board. They get a kill over to Karis, but it's a TP coming from behind them. Cao Hao is once again here in the bottom
Karis.
jungle. It's a flash from ZDZ to make sure Monkey won't even survive. And Karis, we are far, far up the wrong creek. So even when WE find a nice pick on the Angel, they have to pay twofold back to the bank of Edward Gaming.
And this is the problem with the composition that is so utterly devoid of any CC. Anybody is able to just turn around and walk away from you. And yeah, you can slow them down, you can follow them, but when you still have towers up and available, you spend so long underneath a tower, it gives you so little health to work with when everybody else is able to wander on over and get involved in these kills. EDG, they haven't been particularly proactive across the map, but they've been incredibly good at being reactive so far.
I didn't realize
just
Baruchia
dead.
was behind all of this.
Yeah,
Cao
just a
Hao
good flank.
ults, Angel flicks him back, and EDG have found their form we were expecting right off the bat. It just took them one game, it felt.
Yep, absolutely. And now they should be able to pull on back and head towards this Rift Herald that is up on the map. And actually now also just looking to keep pushing down onto the mid lane right here. There's just so many options available to EDG. They just need to keep the pace of this game high. That's the main thing that you have to think they want to be doing right here, because the later on into the game you get, the tankier Monkey will be, and you don't really have someone looking to shred through Monkey. The more that Karis will be able to hit, the more About will be able to just shred through waves and make it quite tricky to actually push through. You do just have to keep the pace of the game high, but so far, not something EDG's been struggling with.
And one thing that we pointed out from draft was that even if WE do find themselves behind, their wave clear is one of the most superior parts of their draft. So getting this Rift Herald, even if it was kind of a free take for Cao Hao, was big because you want to break down turrets, make it harder for them to cover more of these structures. And then this next one that, again, I think they should get pretty free is this Soul Point Mountain Drake, will then force WE out of their wave clearing superiority later on. So these two objectives really starting to feel like part of the nails in the coffin of a disastrous early game from WE.
Yeah, the early game has not helped a composition that already had some very clear weaknesses going into the game. So far, though, Cube hasn't been able to really sit and hit towers, so what can he do in this team fight where people are being drawn down towards the bottom side of the map? He's not even going to get some real alone time yet.
Alright, drive on in is Cao Hao. The turret does not go down, though. It's not the most beneficial
Okay,
Rift Herald, because they didn't really get first track in towards that dragon, and as you pointed out, with the exclamation there, Bloxer, you've gotten Cube free time on a turret, so he gets one of those back, but Monkey is stepping a bit too far forward. It's around the chompers this time. Maximum dosage, wild growth. They're really trying to keep Monkey alive, and in classic Mundo fashion, he just face tanks an entire team's amount of damage, and with the maximum dosage, he's back up to about half HP, more than ZDZ can have to say.
He genuinely goes where he pleases. That was crazy amounts of healing coming on through, and like you said, the Lulu doing a big part of that. That wild growth plus Mundo ulti is just a combo of dreams, but those are two massive ultis that you are now missing out on, and all of that to be able to establish yourself a little bit of a fast track on towards this objective. As you can see, Xiao Hao and the remaining members of EDG don't seem to want to allow this one to go quietly.
Oh boy, Karis and Yao Hao on the wrong side of that Weaver's wall, but Monkey's just trying to run down Angel. Talia mispositioned. The bouncing blades from about get that kill. Xiao Hao has to flash out. Karis is flying at Lee, but falls a bit short. Still gets a huge stream and shuffle after the unstoppable force. Xiao Hao can't get into this fight, and they've sectioned off Perugia. ZDZ is in mini form. He can't get that big Gnar ultimate. He's finally taking into Mega Gnar, goes in for the Gnar ult, gets a Monkey of all people. The dragon down to 1 HP, but it's picked up for WE. EDG are scattered, and the lethal tempo is here with Cube flashing forward. Somehow, some way, WE are making a fight that felt impossible work out in their favor.
What the heck was that? EDG up 5,000 gold going on into that fight with the members of WE trapped into the pit, but they just approach from a couple too many angles and do not find their way into the backline effectively. Their composition has so much more CC, so much more engaged that they can play around, and yet none of it lands. The timing just is not there.
There's so many clutch interactions here from W that I really don't want to sell short either.
Cube is balling.
And then look at this, like the timing on this ult from Karis is what seals it.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have finally given that engage moment that you were really looking for as EDG, but in fact he's instantly able to push back with that shuffle, and then this from ZDZ. You cannot arrive to this teamfight with so little rage that it takes you until the last gasps of it to be able to get up your ulti. That really did hurt as well. That's what I'm talking about with the mistiming, not having the Narbar stacked up, having Angel go in way before anybody else goes and plays, and yet, because there's 5,000 gold ahead going into that teamfight, they're still able to make it work for the most part. It's still a very bloody back and forth matchup, and they don't lose out onto as much as they could have otherwise, but still, they get down 2,000 gold, they lose out onto Soul Point. Horrible team fight right there from EDG.
And while it's still a 3,000 gold lead, what this has effectively allowed WE to do is, for the time being, look how even the items are. At least, all right, Turco's down, flash out of a bout, gets away from the unstoppable force though, steps into the choppers, but he doesn't really care. Perugia just re-engaged with a Magnustorm crash down, but he is done, and Karis again gets a huge Emperor's Defy. They found 2 clutch kills. Angel has to flash away to buy some space, and the trades start to come back through. CDC with the Mega Gnar gets 1 ultimate, it's onto a bout. Yao Yao doesn't have enough shields to protect his marksman, and Angel's able to rescue that fight, but again, that was a 4v5 for WE.
Yeah, WE are finding these fights right now, and it's again Karis with some great shuffles coming on through, and about just playing that one so effectively. You're not going to be able to grab a second tower right here as Angel arrives, but it's just that extra bit of gold. The 5,000 gold lead we were talking about has been cut down to a single grand.
And I hate to say it, Bloxer, but does it feel like that same dysfunction we saw from the last 10 minutes of Game 1 is showing through again?
Oh yes, I get the idea right here. What we were talking about coming into this game was I don't feel good about About's chances of living, but the fact that it's only one person going in, the fact that you only have Xiao Hao go in and try to get that big Malphite ulti off, gets flashed away from by Leave, and he's able to just turn back around and start running on through. This is unfortunate for About that he's not able to dodge away from ZDZ. If he was able to get out of that Gnar ulti, you win that teamfight entirely, and you're able to run through a tower in the bottom lane too, but the fact you're able to win this still in a 4v5 is going to be putting a ton of mental pressure right here onto EDG. They had firm control of this game, and it's beginning to slip through their fingers.
And now with that third Drake going over to WE, they have more time on the soul department. You've got Cube that's now evened out wave states in both top and bottom lane, taking away those tier 1 turrets, so the big advantage is WE comp. This was the period of the game where we felt like they could start swinging momentum. Look at Cube constantly pushing waves in. Karis is going to control the top side. And About, even if he doesn't get first hit on those mid waves, it's 1 Q, 3 W autos, and those waves are evened out completely as well. So it's going to be really hard in these next couple minutes for EDG to kind of will WE into uncomfortable positions, except for Baron.
And the Baron is going to be that critical thing right here. Has already joined us on the map, of course, with the change up to 20 minutes. But neither team really been looking at it before this point in the game. Now people beginning to set up a little bit of vision. And right now, especially with that Scuttler vision, you do just have that fast track here as EDG, and they need to keep that up because you're constantly having somebody sent down to the bottom lane, to the top lane, wherever it is that Cube is at, to deal with this push, and he's going to keep that pressure up the entire time right here. As we said, EDG, they've got control over the Baron pit, but it doesn't feel like they have any way of starting it up anytime soon.
So they're looking for a pick. They've been punishing Cube all game long. It's a 1 versus 2 again. ZDZ, though, does not
Cube's
have Megan.
so strong.
Oh, my God. The Maiden is throwing hands with the ghouls. TP comes through. Karis is here. Solo lane v solo lane. ZDZ is going to go Mega. Angels try to play at range, but get slowed up by a clutch Cube E. And look at WE. Do they have the first track to get down here? ZDZ is far too low. He's going to drop. Meganar doesn't matter. Monkey gets jumped on, but there's the Wild Growth. There's maximum dosage. Monkey is just simply ignoring all of the carries damage coming from Edward Gaming. And now they may not have the CC Blockster, but they can just walk down EDG, corral them out of any chance of turning the fight.
Everybody just going to be able to slip away. It's just going to turn into a push right here onto the mid lane turret. And with those crystals there, with the grubs grabbed and a Yorick on your team, another tower going to fall. The gold lead that you had has completely evaporated right here for EDG. And exactly right, you're going to be able to turn straight back around as WE and grab themselves this dragon. All of a sudden, Group Perseverance has been flipped on its head.
See, I would argue that WE is embodying the group name very well right now.
True. Very true. They were down 6,000 gold, Slayer.
Well, you know what? I don't know who's going to win this game, but I know what we are guaranteed of, and it feels so good to say this once again, Bloxer. We're going to get an LPL gold graph.
Oh, yeah. I missed them. We had far too many smooth curves during the Marseille Cup. Far too many teams starting, winning, and then closing it out. I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that was allowed in LPL matchups. Yeah, this one is very much going to reflect what we expect from the LPL.
So now we are in such an even state again that I want to emphasize. We're even in turrets, we're even in Drakes, and we've got a Yorick that's going to be even harder to control on the side lanes. We have a Nazir and a Sivir, who are two of the greatest scalers in their respective roles. I know it is hyper carry, AD carry for hyper carry, AD carry, but this is just playing more and more into the methodical side split lane threat combo that W want to play as this game moves forward.
Absolutely, it is. It looks like WE. They're going to push on the pace right here, and it's worked out for them the last couple of times. Angel does use the wall, but...
Monkey is completely trapped. Xiaohao engages right on top of him. Mundo doesn't get Wild Growth. Mundo's getting healing. Baron is down to 3k. Xiaohao wants to secure the Baron, but Karis throws himself into the background. Leave goes down first. Xiaohao is just hitting the Baron, and his team is going to pay the price for it unless ZDZ flashes out. I don't think about hunting these kills down. Xiaohao with a gutsy call, and it works out for EDG. They steal the Baron onto 4.
Monkey just mispositions in that one, needed to be a little bit closer to the rest of his squad, and just gets instantly bursted. That's now going to be 4 members with the Baron for EDG, and they can re-establish themselves back into a lead in this game, up by 2,000 gold already, just from the gold you get off the back of the Baron. As we have a look back at this one, Monkey has his flash available to him. If he just decides to flash straight back over the wall, he doesn't get a chance to. He's just locked down right there. Needed to preemptively pop it all when you start to see it. And I think that Karis nearly turns this fight for his team. That was a really great attempt at the Shurima Shuffle, but a couple flashes coming on through just buys a little bit of extra space for the members of EDG and allows them to limp away Baron buff intact. What can EDG do with this Baron buff, though? Because the push so far has been very much in the favor of WE.
Yeah, Bloxer, you said it, we talked about from draft. Again, I mean, look at About. It doesn't even matter if it's Baron minions. He can clear waves with ease. Azir can bring up a Shuriman turret. At least the ZDZ is able to get 1 tier 2 in the bot side, so that's some gold into this Baron power play, but I think it's going to be really hard for EDG to find much more of that with this Baron.
I mean, where do you go, right? You try push straight through the mid lane, but that's where About is. And as you said, just going to be able to shred straight on through all of these Baron minions. It's not like the last game where the second that the Baron minions were up, EDG couldn't do anything. They had no long-range wave clear at all to be able to throw out. In this situation, you've got infinite wave clear as WE. Losing out to the Baron is unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. And they should just be able to weather this storm. Only a minute left onto this Baron buff. And so we're going to be looking into the future towards the next set of objectives to fight over. Minute 30 seconds until the next Drake spawns. Either team grabbing it would put them onto Soul Point, so we're still not at that critical soul mark for either of these squads.
The hunt popped from about. They're looking to chase down EDZ. CDZ doesn't have flash to get over the wall. He's going to have to hop. Ooh, that boomerang, making it close. Pick play isn't going to come across, and that does give up inside track position towards not only this mid-tier 2 for WE, but on the top side, Angel gets the top lane tier 2 down. So WE looked for one pick onto ZDZ, and it nearly cost them a lot of gold in the process.
Yeah, but they are able to at least pull it back for themselves, and a couple of big key items have been coming on through as well. These are 3 items completed onto all of these main carries right now. ZDZ specifically is shredding through towers and people alike. He just needs to be careful with managing his rage bar, something that we saw him have a mistake with earlier on. If he's able to arrive to these team fights with the rage bar fully stacked up as he was in that last Baron fight, then you're going to be in a much better spot to continue on the pressure that they have. Still, I do just wonder about whether or not EDG are going to have that level of synergy together that they need with this composition. If you go flying in one by one, it's just not going to work. WE, though, they suffer from a different problem, which is just lack of CC. Who is actually going to make something happen? You are putting a lot of pressure right now on Karis, finding a massive Shurima shuffle.
WE feeling brash, just standing up in this midway. Monkey is on the backside of the fight, half healthing Perukia. Good poke onto ZDZ as well. Somehow the comp with very little range and very little CC is poking these health bars down as Mount Drake is spawned. Monkey's running in. There's the on the hunt popped. He's got the maximum dose. He's got the wild growth. Monkey, can he survive all of this burst? No, but Karis flies in again to assassinate Leave and sends DDZ right into about. Cube and Karis making the difference. WE don't need the CC. They don't need the agency. They create their chaos, and they may just knock down this series right here, right now. Only Perukia to survive. They've got the grubs. WE looking to make the 6K gold comeback to sweep Edward Gaming out.
Can the single rel keep this game going for EDG? The death timers at this point are long enough that this game should be done and dusted. WE, they fight back from a horrible early game, and they put themselves in a position to 2-0 EDG, a team nobody had high expectations for. We thought it was just going to be the monkey show, but no. Karis steps up, and WE, they 2-0 EDG.
It's a new year, and it's a new WE through one series. Wow. You know what? There were a lot of mistakes on both sides from our teams, but I have to applaud the way WE have found a way to nerf themselves in an early game and in a mid game, and then just pop off like it didn't even matter. That takes some guts.
Is this the 4th place WE that we saw during Split 2 reappearing? Is this them popping back up for us? Because that was a very fun matchup right here. Is this version of WE winning LPL Split 1? No, absolutely not. There is no chance that that's happening. But are they winning Group Perseverance? Are they a potential upset team for a Group Ascend squad? Potentially, if they can keep building on what this is. I mean, Slayer, is Karis okay now? Like, that was a really solid couple games.
There are going to be some interesting discussions to be had. Obviously, again, Bloxer's having a lot of fun with these ultimatums. We are one series in for WE, but let's have some fun. I'm always down for some overreactions. And
Slayer,
we're overreacting.
he showed us no good series last year, right?
Yeah, that's true.
One good series is an improvement. It can only go up from here.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've got Honkyu in the league now. You could have turned nameplates off, asked me who was making those Azir plays. I would have told you Honkyu. Even outside of Honkyu, how many names would you have gone through before you got to Karis?
I'd have certainly said Angel at some point before I said Karis, right? That was a really, really odd one right there. You shouldn't allow a lead like that to be come back from EDG. And it was, again, just the miscommunication between this team. A team we expected to come into today having their synergy already figured out. You've only slipped in a bot laner, and bot laners are very rarely much more than they're your damage. They shouldn't really be doing your big shot calling. They should very much be following the calls of their support, of their jungler. So you should be able to swap them in and out without major issues coming on through. And yet, in that game, they were so discombobulated. The way that they were coming into a couple of these team fights, no rage stacked in top lane, just Weaver's Wall coming through way earlier than anybody else could follow it up. You've got your support trying to flank from one angle, and your top lane is flanking from a different angle, and not at an, oh, you've caught everybody way, in an, oh, you've managed to pass like ships in the night kind of way, and nobody's getting these big plays off. Just not good in terms of the macro out of EDG, which was not the problem we thought this squad was going to have.
No, without a doubt was not. Thinking, big picture, Blockster, because we talked about it a bit. I don't know if we mentioned it on air yet, but before me and you got into the casting booth, we were talking about how Season 16, one of the most fun parts for pro play is going to be the fact that leads can manifest within seconds with the turret plates, the nature of how sped up the minion waves are, the fighting, the Baron coming at 20 minutes instead of 25 minutes. But there's also the fact that leads can be thrown. The volatility of gold leads in general, is really going to take center stage. I'm excited to, once we get maybe to split one playoffs, get a couple, months into the Season 16, to look back at this series and say, okay, how much was the comeback mechanic of Season 16 helping W in this aspect, or how much was it just, the resilience of this team? Right now, I want to lean towards the resilience, because 6K gold lead, no matter what season of League of Legends you're talking about, at 15, 18 minutes is a massive one. There's your LPL gold graph.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly what we're expecting out of this one. I mean, look at the damage that About was able to do. This was a game that I thought he was going to die 60 times and be able to hit nobody ever. And we never saw that. Not through lack of trying from Xiaohao specifically, but everybody else felt like they just couldn't get backline access. For a composition built around getting backline access, that was really odd to see, and I was expecting a lot more from the EDG members, especially when they jumped out to that massive gold lead, but they just never were able to actually push the pace forwards. Exactly as you said, you can get gold leads very quickly, but you can get them back off of teams very, very fast. But the fact that EDG just never really pushed theirs forwards, it felt like they were accumulating gold incidentally, and then at some point stopped incidentally accumulating gold. They needed to be a lot more proactive with it.
They were definitely, in that game too, they were without a doubt incidentally accruing some gold leads. That's for sure. But yeah, Karis is going to get a lot of praise here. I don't know if we'll necessarily get to see player of the game the way the nature of the end of these series goes through for the main feed from the LPL. I would hope Karis gets the player of the game. I feel like he earns it so much, but you were praising Yao Yao for the Rakan in game one. This Lulu, who I thought was going to be the one that dies 60 times, there was some really clutch. It was such a hilarious funnel strategy of, I don't care how low you are, Monkey, I'm going to ult you, I'm going to shield you, you're going to ult, and dare EDG to burst you out, and it only worked like once.
And this is, again, another bit of why I was thinking that you were going to see a lot of deaths coming through, not onto Yao Yao, but onto About. Because every single time he was ulting straight onto Monkey, and that should be your dream right here as EDG. He's ulted onto Monkey? Cool, we're gonna just nuke About, Karis will die too, and then, Monkey's gonna survive forever, but all of their damage is gone. Who cares? We're actually gonna be able to rip off their heads anyway. But no, Yao Yao and Monkey were playing really well together. I wouldn't be able to give Yao Yao any form of MVP for this game, because his early game was pretty weird. I'm not sure why he decided to step up and get himself killed right at the very start of this game. I do wonder, Slayer, if this game is entirely different, if those first 3 kills bot lane go to Leave instead of Perukia, because Leave was never able to actually get ahead. That's quite a lot of gold you weren't actually able to fully make use of.
Yeah, that is a big what if. Man, that was hilarious because that's the old solo queue adage, right? I'm sure all of us have seen games get thrown by certain individuals because certain people take kills away from AD carries, mid laners early in the game. It usually doesn't have that profound of effect in pro play, right? Gold leads are gold leads.
Gold is gold. Supports matter.
In this game, I think you have a point.
It matters.
3 kills away from Leave. I don't know. That is a hypothetical now. In the reality, WE have come in, shut down one of the more hyped teams outside of the Group Ascend Championship contenders to start out Group Perseverance with a 2-0. And what a series that was, and we'll have to look back on for the implications of. That will wrap us up in pretty a short fashion here for the LPL English Day 4. Dump back-to-back 2-0s, and that leaves us just with one important group of people to thank here. So I want to take a moment to shout out our Elite Coffee supporters. Thank you very much to our Elite Coffee supporters, Aaron Soup, Mong, Force Without, and owners of a Silmaril. Their pledge financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who strive to give you an LPL English product every day. That today includes myself, the great Bloxer, our two awesome casters that held down the first shift, that being Yanni and Quax, and the real trooper, our producer Shivam, who has been here for both series. But with that, we are going to close out today's set of games. Bloxer, any final thoughts before we close down the broadcast?
It's good to be back. It feels amazing to be able to get back into the swing of this, and it feels like a proper Slayer Bloxer cast that we get a matchup like this between these two teams. Absolutely gorgeous, and I can't wait to get a couple more matches going.
Well, if you had fun with Group Perseverance today and survived through some questionable gameplay from OMG and arguably both of our teams today, here's the prize that you get tomorrow if you tune into LPL English. I would dare say preview this as a potential Split 1 Finals preview. Our first series tomorrow. The new Viper-led Billy Gaming will be taking on the Anyone's Legends squad defending their Split 2 championship. That one's going to be fun. We go back to Group Ascent tomorrow. You know, the same place, twitch.tv/LPL English, youtube.com/LPL_English. I've been updated on. Those are the two places you can find us. We'll be back tomorrow with more LPL action. Until then, take care and see you soon, everybody.